All right. I'm going to call the meeting to order. And I'm going to read my obligatory statement here. Due to the governor's statewide disaster declaration relating to the COVID-19 pandemic and current public health guidelines for social distancing, I have determined that it's not prudent for members of the village board or staff to convene in person for tonight's meeting. Therefore, the members of the village board are attending the meeting by video conference. Those same conditions require barring access to the public for in-person attendance. In light of those limitations, the public's invited to attend and listen to the meeting through the Zoom platform or by phone as indicated on the meeting agenda. To comply with the Open Meetings Act requirements for virtual meetings, tonight's meeting is being recorded. So Amy, if you could do a roll call and make sure everyone can be heard, I think that's the way we got to start this off.
Okay. Trustee Borowski, can you hear me?
Yes, I'm here. Good evening.
Thank you. Trustee Kurtzmeyer, can you hear me?
Yes, can you hear me?
I can, thank
I
you.
can't hear you. I can't hear you.
Trustee O'Reilly, can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Thank you. Trustee Nora, can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Excellent. And Trustee O'Connor, can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Thank you. And Trustee Michaud, same to you. Oh, I can't hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, now I
Hello?
can hear you. Yep, I can hear you now. Thank you.
All right, great. So we're going to say a pledge of allegiance, if we may. I pledge allegiance
Pledge allegiance
To
to
the
the flag
flag of the United States of America and to the
republic
for which it stands, one nation,
one
under
nation,
God,
under
indivisible,
God,
with
indivisible,
liberty and
liberty and
justice
justice
for
for all.
Justice for all.
Liberty and justice for all.
All right, we got that all in sync, I think, kind of. The
Getting
first
better.
item on the agenda is the homeowners associations. Oakwood Creek, is Neil Grant here by any chance?
I am, yes.
Hey, Neil, did you have anything that you wanted to discuss with the board tonight?
Nothing other than I raised by email directly.
Got it. And Bill, you responded to those?
Yeah,
concerns?
actually, I asked Jim late this afternoon for an assist on that second one, Neil. I apologize. I got that first one out right away, but Jim, have you had a chance to address any of those 2 or 3 questions that Neil raised today?
Yeah, hold on. Let me go to my emails here.
Okay, thank you.
I'm quite happy to take those offline by email.
Neil, while we're waiting, how's everything going?
Generally, in the neighborhood, we're good. Everyone's well. Keep finding the odd stray dog that people have let out their house and let run away, but we find the owners again, which is all good. So good.
Okay,
That's
for the
good.
questions, I'm sorry.
Yeah,
Go.
yeah. Were you going to answer the questions that?
Yeah,
Bill
for the
pointed to you?
questions that were sent this afternoon, the first question was regarding welcome signs at both ends of Route 83 and beautification of the center strip. To the best of my knowledge, there are no signs that have been discussed at this location. The medians in the center strip, the CSC is actually looking at beautification of medians, but not particularly the Route 83 medians. I believe that would be an Idot issue. I believe we do maintain them, but I think plantings or anything like that that's going to be in their right-of-way would probably have to have their approval at some point in time. The next question was regarding the concrete triangle with weeds and broken guardrails, etc. that needs attention. I am not sure if that's located in our right-of-way or IDOT right-of-way. If it's in IDOT's right-of-way, again, it would be something that IDOT would need to take care of. It's ours. If it is ours, typically Ela Township goes out and takes care of those types of things for us. So, again, I'd have to see exactly where that is to try to determine if it's in our right-of-way or state right-of-way. And then the third question was regarding road signs. As I think the board is aware, a couple of years ago, we did a replacement with street signs. If these only apply to those that were in the public, that is the village right-of-way, and not on private streets. If it's on our street, then again, Ela Township would be the one that would go out and straighten the signs and address the other issues that were brought up with regard to signage. And those were the three questions that I got late this afternoon.
So Jim, are you going to be following up on those items that to make sure they get to the right places? Or Bill, will you be doing that?
Yeah, we'll take care of that. I want to check that right away location because we're not sure right now, but we'll make a determination, get back to Neil on that.
Appreciate that. Thank you so much.
Okay.
Neil, anything else?
No, I mean, I'd had some exchanges about the concerns of the people in the HOA about the farm that's bordering Oakwood Road. We would really like to get some contact with them. I think people are suspicious of what's going on there and don't know if it's just agricultural or other usage. And we can't get any information from the village and can't get any information directly. I think people are just concerned if it's agricultural research, if there's any impact on pollination, on other health issues. So we just like to get some sort of contact with them, find out what's going on there and how long they intend to be using that land for agricultural use, I guess.
Neil, if there was something, one of the avenues that you might have that may have not exhausted yet is the association could do a Freedom of Information Act to the Illinois Department of Agriculture to confirm what activities are going on. If there was experimentation or something that needed permits, it would probably be through the Department of Agriculture. But the village doesn't have any role in that issue because the state would take care of that. I'm not sure that there's any of that going on, but they would probably need to respond to you within 7 to 10 days to indicate if there was anything permitted for that. That might give some of the neighbors some degree of pause or rest that, but that would be the authority that would, governing authority that would have to issue a permit for that type of activity.
Okay, I can approach that. And does the farm fall within the village boundaries in terms of their continuing tenancy or usage of the land?
It is in the village. Jim, am I right about that?
Yeah, it is in the village. At one time, there was a PUD that was surrounding what I'll call the farmstead, which was actually the Gridley farm at one time. The PUD approval has been basically vacated, but the zoning remains. So that land carries the R2 residential district classification. Agricultural uses in terms of the growing of crops are permitted use in any residential district. So the growing of crops is really not an issue on that R2 property.
Okay, I guess the question was, I think we had heard that usage of the farm for agricultural usage might stop and there might be some application to build residential properties on it. Are you aware of anything in the next year or so to that effect?
I have no applications pending, nor do I anticipate applications coming in. I haven't talked to anyone about that property. So as far as I know, it's to remain vacant and as cropland, at least in the foreseeable future.
And this is Vic Filippini, the village attorney, just as a matter of process, if they did want to develop it, at a minimum, it would require a subdivision approval for a portion of, if they wanted to further subdivide the farmstead. And so that would be something that would have to go through public meeting.
Okay, thank you very much. That's all, thank you.
Thanks for being here. Thanks for what you do for us. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Is Edgewood Pond here by any chance? Amit Kumar, I'm going to butcher the last name, Pilvikar? All right. What about Rosehills Parkway, Buzz Hoffman? I take that as a no. I don't see anyone on the screen named that. It's great to see Sergeant Ryan Amber here after a long hiatus. And we wanted to invite you to the board meetings. They went virtual because of COVID, and we missed you. I don't know if there's anything that you have to report. If you have a brief update, great. If not, if the board has any questions for you, I'll let them ask. But the floor is yours.
Yeah, since everything started, I mean, I've been in, now that Dave's gone, I've been in touch with Bill a few times and emailed him on some small issues, some cars that were broken into, or, I think we are done having, I think it might be some more problems at CF Industries over the last couple months, just some kids snooping around in there, but I don't know what the status of that property is. If you guys have any knowledge, that'd be great to pass along to us in the future. So
we do actually, Ryan, that basically there is a developer in there right now that's starting to work on the building and finish it up. And I believe they have a security detail out there now. So
yeah, I think that was probably who caught the kids snooping around out there. So
yeah, apparently they were down below, I believe. And the kids were up above or something that.
Yeah.
Or you guys were down below and they were up above, however that went, right?
Something.
You were sitting out there that day, I heard.
Other than that, I mean, I don't want to jinx anything, so we'll just say that initially the BRIDGE was an issue, which, that we were trying to get those reports to you as fast as possible every time there was a thing there. And, Dave finally
Let's not talk about it.
Yeah, no, I say that. Other than that, that's it. That's why I spelled it out for you guys. I didn't want to say it. But lately, knock on wood, it's been good with that. So I think people are realizing it's actually 2 feet shorter than before. That was part of the problem maybe at first too. So anybody have anything?
Any questions?
I had a question. Thank you, and good to see you, by the way. I downloaded the new app from the Lake County Sheriff, and there was a message up front that said, for the certain municipalities where you are our police force, there would be tailored messages. But there wasn't anywhere that I could tell that I was indicating I was from Long Grove. So it's just, if there's anything you could share about how that works for Long Grove residents, I'd appreciate it.
I can't share, unfortunately. The tech is not my department of choice. I have it on my work phone as well. So I see, the winter storm alerts, major crashes, areas to avoid like that. I haven't really dissected it to see if there's a section where, just residents of Long Grove can go on there to communicate with each other or whatnot, but it's just another avenue for people to pass along information, compliments, complaints, things like that, and kind of stay current and show everybody what the sheriff's office has been up to.
Okay, I understand. It's not your area of expertise. It'd be,
No,
I think we'd be interested.
Yeah, shoot me an email with more specifics maybe, so I can understand exactly what you're looking for, and then I can get that to the right people.
Well, and Ann, that came up, I brought it up, we had a call. I think there's a status report from Chris here. We had an internal call and we're trying to get another call set up for the contract renewal. And I brought that up as well as, how can this thing be used, right? You can see all the sex offenders, that's clear. And that's an interesting one. Yeah. And, but there wasn't a whole lot else on here so far. So I didn't see a lot of value in it. I know Denise did some initial research too. So trying to figure out if we can use it. So
would love to know. So thank you.
I enjoyed looking through the inmate listing.
There you go.
Some of the information on there is redundant from what's on our website. So I would still say if you're looking for something more in depth or whatnot, the website's going to provide people who are just looking for, some type of information, maybe a better answer. I know everybody thinks it's quicker to grab an app on your phone, but it's probably an ever evolving project here. Just another avenue other than, we have Instagram and Facebook and whatnot, but those are for more social, type events that the sheriff's office is taking part in.
Yeah, thank you. Any other questions? Brian, you're welcome to stay and enjoy our Zoom meeting tonight, or you can leave. It's
I have to get these little 22-month-old girls, 23-month-old girls to bed, so. My wife
Your
needs a
work
hand.
is never done.
I've been working a lot extra lately, so when I told my wife I had a meeting tonight, she just rolled her eyes a little bit. I said, I'll try to make it quick.
Sergeant Amber, thanks for being here. We appreciate it. Good to see you again.
Feel free to email me anytime if you guys have any questions.
Thank
Will
you.
do. Thank you.
Yeah,
Have a
thank
good
you.
night.
Good night.
All right, moving right along, we have the next item on the agenda, because I don't believe the Long Grove Fire Department's here tonight. So is the report of the village.
Bill, do we ever invite Countryside?
No, we didn't this time, but we can. I think we had in the past with Dave, but we can.
I don't recall ever seeing them. Well, no, I take that back.
They
One.
did. They came a couple times. So I
Yeah.
know we're split between 2 districts, so we can do that. For now, we just did the easy one and invited Long Grove. So. All right, moving right along, the village engineer report. Jeff, we put you up early. I don't know if that means you get to leave early or what, but
I just thought it was I was moving up in the world, but that's okay.
that could be it. Yeah.
So happy to go through the update for you. Although there was nothing highlighted on the report for Kruger Road, that's still going through the process, getting ready for an early March letting. At this stage of the game, no news is good news. So I'm happy to report that.
But you need to talk about, because I did go to the Council of Mayors meeting this week, right? And we did get the extra funding needed for the engineering.
Yes. So all of the extra funding for the, it was not only the engineering, but more importantly, funding for the construction itself. That was approved. As you can remember, the meetings in November, we were talking about that and waiting for that to go through, but it did. So all systems are a go from that end. And President Bill, I'm going to talk about the Rebuild Illinois Fund money just briefly when I talk about the road program here.
Cool.
So the next thing I will defer to Bill Balling to discuss the signage at the aforementioned BRIDGE if he wants to. For now, I'm going to go on to number 5 of my report, which is the road maintenance program. President Bill Balling, and Trustee O'Connor and myself had a discussion last week about capital projects for 2021. And it was our intent to have something to discuss here at the board meeting tonight on that. But in talking with Bill Balling and Trustee O'Connor, we want to make sure that we kind of think that through so that we can present, and have a well-rounded conversation on that. So as it was in the manager's report, that'll be a discussion for the next board meeting on February 9th. Last week, the village was notified that they got the 3rd installment of the Rebuild Illinois bond money. That is the 3rd in a series of 6 installments. There was a $2.5 billion bond issue passed last year, and the money is divided amongst the municipalities and townships. Each allotment to Long Grove is $88,244.22. I bring that up. The monies for that, the 4th, 5th, and 6th allotments will come 4th later this year, and then the last 2 next year. And the village will have until 2025 to spend those funds, but the village will need to identify the projects that those funds will be spent on by the end of next year. So that will be part of the discussion for the 2021 capital projects at the February 9th board meeting.
Hey, Jeff, the reason was, I think what I heard is that a lot of money hasn't been spent yet. So they're asking for that information about, we've got this money, how come no one's spending it? So that's why they want that survey filled out, is what I got from the Council of Mayors meeting.
Okay. So
Could you repeat what the number is? How much is it?
About 88 grand a year.
Okay,
It's 88 times 2 because the village gets 2 installments a year.
2 of them, okay.
okay,
And the first 2 installments that was included in the MFT monies. It's separate process through MFT with that criteria. But long story short, the first 2 allotments were used for Cuba Road last year. So we'll just make sure that the state has all the paperwork and remembers that we told them that that's what we were going to do. So we'll close that loop as well.
And we have 4 more years worth coming, right?
So there's 2 more years of funding. So the village will get
4 installments.
3 more allotments after this one. But they have until the end of 2025 to spend the money.
Right, okay. So it's about $250,000 after this one.
Rough numbers, yep.
Yeah, okay, thanks.
Yep. Moving on, the Stemple Parking Lot. Last summer, the village was notified that there was $200,000 earmarked for a grant for that. The village did receive notification that the funding was available, and we are working through the, believe it or not, the application materials to get that money. Once the application materials are sent over to the DCEO, they'll process those and send the grant agreement. We have learned that the grant period will be 2 years from when the agreement is executed, so the village will have 2 years to spend the money. So we'll get that paperwork over to DCEO here in the next day or 2. President Bill, thank you for getting all those forms signed. I know there was quite a few of those.
Yeah, I can't follow directions well, but eventually I got there, so thank you.
and that money is site specific. That has to stay in Stemple.
Yes, that is $200,000, and the grant program or the earmark is rebuilding of Stemple Parking Lot.
Okay.
So, yes.
So what happened, and it's actually written in a House bill. I have the bill number that it was specific for that. And Kent Tanushi's on here too. And he got some, was also in that same bill for the Park District. I don't think that he's gotten his money yet. Kent, have you gotten your money yet?
No, we haven't gotten money. We actually haven't gotten notified by the senator's office either. I inquired about a week ago, but we've not heard back. So I need to ask again.
Yeah, because the senator had called me on that Saturday afternoon and said I need it by like 5 o'clock, this information. And he was actually looking for your phone number too. So
okay.
That day, so we passed that all of that along. So
okay, thank you. I'll follow up with them.
Yep. So that's how that came about. But anyways, that was back in the summer. So we finally got it.
Okay. Moving right along, number 9 on my report is the water treatment plant. In response to the failure at the plant in October, one of the items that had been discussed was updating the Scada system, which is basically the recognition notification system for the alarms at the building, and advanced automation and controls, which is the Scada integrator that we use, completed their work last week, and they've updated the Scada. They've got rid of the squawk box. So now all of the alarms are coded. So when the call goes out, it tells the operators what's going on out there. So that's going to certainly increase response and cut down on diagnostic time so that we can respond to those things in a more efficient manner. So that is good news to report.
Jeff, who does that call go to?
So there's 3 operators on the phone tree right now. It goes to our primary operator, and then we've got 2 backups. And then I think I am number 4 on that list.
So what period of time is there between the alarm and response?
So the alarm is triggered, the call goes out within a couple minutes. And then our operators, even if the first guy isn't able to take the call, he knows the number. He's not going to wait for the automated system to call number 2. And that was exactly what happened in October. We had the first guy get notified, and he was further away. He called number 2, if you will, who was able to respond in a quicker manner. But in October, it wasn't the same notification system, and the alarm wasn't coded so that way they knew exactly what was going on at the time they got there. Didn't take them long to figure it out, but
Yeah, but
it's
so
certainly a challenge.
that's not what we do now. So something goes wrong and an alarm rings, calls number 1. How long do they have to respond before it automatically goes to number 2?
I believe it's just a matter of like 5 minutes, but I can get that exact time.
Yeah, I'd really like to know, because if it's 30 minutes, it's like, well, why bother?
Yeah, 30 minutes is way too long. 5 might even be pushing it.
Just shoot me a 2 words on
Okay.
how long it is.
Okay. I
Thank
can certainly, I will get that. Great
I
question.
know when the water went out the last time, the alarm was Jesse DeSoto calling me to tell me. So,
Yeah.
and then Marcia Forsythe texted me. I mean, I got everyone hit me up right away. The good news is that AWOL was already on their way, which was good. So I had good news.
Yeah, but in the middle of the night,
Yeah, there you go. Different story.
Okay. Old Mchenry Road, the construction project, there was some discussion at the last board meeting about the repairs to the parkway in front
Jeff,
of.
can I interrupt you? Sorry, I had myself muted. So what's the actual response time though? So phone tree goes through its phone tree, but I mean, people aren't close by, right? Is there any mechanism to remotely shut down whatever is malfunctioning? Or, I mean, what's the response time till somebody gets actually their butt in there to do the deal of pulling the plug?
Yeah, we've got one guy that's 15 minutes away. So he's the closest. And, as far as remote capabilities, that's one of the limitations of the system. So getting the proper sequence of alarms, being able to respond to them, that was the first step of what we're doing. But as far as any remote access and control, the system is not set up for that at this point.
Really? I could do my thermostat that way now. I'm being facetious a little bit. I'm a little bit surprised that we don't have remote shutdown capability to preclude any additional damage, or if there's anything we could do locally. If 15-minute away guy isn't around, what do we do, right? I mean, I get it. Then 30-minute away guy gets called, or a 45-minute away guy gets called. It just doesn't seem like it's a very robust solution.
It seems like a fallback should be the fire department kind of thing.
Maybe that's a great idea, actually, Bobby. I don't know if the fire department can run over and pull the plug, but if we trained them up, maybe they could. If it's even logical. I don't know if it even makes sense, Jeff. I have no idea what's in that building or what plugs to pull, but it just seems like it's not a robust response.
Yeah, no, that's a good idea. I'll say if everything needs to be shut down, it's the fire department's going to be the closest, and they're staffed all the time over there.
Right.
Yeah, and you can cause some residual damage to your system through water hammers and things of that sort if you don't shut it off right. So there's we would have to train up and get some agreement and understanding with the fire department so they didn't cause more damage as a result of their efforts to try to contain a leak or a rupture or whatever, what might be it. I mean, you can spend money, a lot of money, and get a more sophisticated SCADA system. We've got sort of the very basic kind of notification systems for remote operations, but there are applications, but they get, on a small customer base like that, they get a little out of context with the the service demands that are, they're so small, and the revenues that are coming out of the system.
Well, can we look into having that as an option, as a fallback? That we could have somebody who would know at the fire department in a real emergency, if we're gonna, burn up equipment, and have them, because they're so knowledgeable.
Yeah. I mean, intuitively, I think it's a good concept, in that they are local, and we've got a good working relationship with the district. It's a good plan, but we've got to come up first with an assessment on what are the 3 or 4 things that we'd ask of them if we're unable to respond, for, what are the core issues. And I think it's a reasonable approach, and, we have to show some care and kind of some planning, and as far as what your redundancy support system looks like. And, I think it's something worth pursuing.
Why can't it be programmed and just shut down after a certain amount of time? Why do you need humans?
Well, you can control through remote operations and monitoring. We have more of the monitoring right now, but you can do those kind of things. And I guess, Jeff, we'd have to huddle with our operating director and see what he would recommend as far as what are the highest priorities, and then maybe come back with some discussion to the board.
Well, why spend money if we could solve it by a person?
Right.
Yeah, and Rita, to your point, I can get the list, but there's a couple things where the plant will shut down based on what's out there. And one of those things is like if there's a reverse pressure situation, that can certainly damage the pumps, the system, and stuff like that. And if that happens, there's a couple more, but it'll automatically shut down.
I see.
All right, so you'll come back to us with some more information there on what can be done, including perhaps using the fire department.
Okay. All right. Moving on, Old Mchenry Road. Discussion at the last board meeting about the parkway restoration and remedial work in front of Marcia Forsyth's house. Did reach out to them, and they did get pricing to do that work last fall, and they were preparing to do a spring project and seek reimbursement from the county. I did talk with Bill Balling about that process, and if the village wanted to assist in that. Former manager Led Spike had offered that the village could help approach the county about the reimbursement. So it was talking with Bill Balling about how that would work. And I believe that it would be a request from the village rather than myself to get this done and restore that drainage over there. Just for some context, the remedial work out there, Marcia Forsyth and her team got 2 quotes for that work. We're talking between $42,000 and $52,000 of work. So.
Whoa.
$1,000?
Yeah. So those were the quotes they had, and it's detailed, fine grading out there. That a landscaper can do. The contract that had been done out there and the work that had been done was, by A-Lamp, and not taking anything away from their abilities, but they're not landscapers. So that's where that's at. So I think that moving forward and approaching the county between Bill Balling and myself, that's the next step on that.
I fully support that. I think that's a great idea.
Grease those rails and get the county on board. So if we get any pushback, we will certainly make the board aware.
We'll give it a run. It's not going to be a slam dunk for us, because I'm sure there'll be some point of resistance on that, but we'll give it a run and see what we can get.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay, the moving over to Route 53, the Idot project and the drain tiles out there. The report in the packets that I was waiting for the proposal from Huddleston McBride that I discussed a couple weeks ago. I am waiting for that. I have not gotten the paperwork for that. I did talk to Tom Huddleston, and they are interested in doing the work and tracing that drain tile. And he is going to send a time and material proposal to do that. It's not a slam dunk work by any means. As you may recall, last summer they tried to find it, but they couldn't. So I'm expecting a time and material proposal from Huddleston McBride to do that. They're going to send a magnetized tracer wire in the pipe to help them locate that. Long story short, they think that they can do that work in less than a day, but they're going to give me a proposal for a day of work, and that's going to be on the magnitude of $3,000. So I'll share that proposal once I get it.
Are we keeping all of the residents apprised of what's going on?
Yeah, I've been in communication with Mark Trackman about that. All the residents, Mark is the one that's most directly impacted. So I have not notified the entire subdivision.
The other residents don't care?
So I wouldn't say that they don't care.
Communicate.
Correct.
I would urge us to get that list back out and give them an update as to what's happening, even if they don't care.
Let them, yeah, noted.
Thanks.
Jeff, was it when we had Huddleston do that work last year, it was around 7,000, right?
It was just over 4,000.
Okay.
Yeah, it was, I want to say a $4,300 range.
Okay. I remember thinking it wasn't much really, so.
Right.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, not highlighted on the report, but Lake Eleanor Estates. We talked about the status of that at the last board meeting. I have reached out to the Homeowners Association president and one of their members. I have yet to hear back from them, but we're still pursuing that. Antietam and Schaefer talked to the last board meeting about the storm sewer investigation over there. American Underground is scheduled to do that later this week. However, with last night's snow, that schedule may get pushed back a little bit. We'll see what happens here in the next couple days.
They were going to check out that sinkhole at Sumter and Schaefer also, right?
Correct. Yep.
Okay.
And then just a couple of two things I wanted to update the board on. Phillip Estates, the subdivision on Cuba Road. I know there's been a lot of talk about that project. I did talk to their engineer a week and a half ago, and they are still moving forward with the project. Hopefully we see a plan submittal here in the next couple of weeks. They are thinking about getting on the March PCZBA meeting. And lastly, certainly not off my radar is the berm remedial work at the Grove Country Club. And I spoke with Brian Tolk last week. Brian is one of the co-owners of the Grove, and it was kind of an interesting conversation. And for whatever reason, Mr. Tolk was of the understanding the village was going to prepare the landscape plan for that project. So had some discussion about that, and reminded him of what was in the settlement agreement. So that was a discussion last Thursday with him. So I will be following up with him because June 1 is going to come very quickly, and getting this project done would be the best thing for everybody involved.
Jeff, you know,
Yes.
with this updated report form, your follow-up is so much better. And I really appreciate it.
You're welcome. So with that, just the remaining parts of the report are just updates on various permits. I'm not going to go through those, but if there's any questions, happy to answer those.
Any questions from the board?
I'm good.
Nope. Agree with Bobby. This format makes it very easy to track. Thank you.
Yep, we appreciate it, Jeff. Thank you.
You're welcome. And end of report.
Great. I don't know if that means you can go home yet, but
I think we should vote on whether Jeff can leave. I
Do
would
we need
make
him for
a
anything?
motion that he could leave.
do we need him for anything else though?
I had one question. It might relate to, but you might want to stay for Janet, the next one.
Oh, okay.
We can let him go early, but stick around for a little bit. So.
Okay.
All right. So the next item on the agenda is the report from the Long Grove Park District on the Tesol Abatement Program. And then there's a request for some money for this year. They did a great job last year. I don't know that if we need a presentation. We had a presentation last year. I know that this year's plan is to include some village roads in it. There was a document in the packet. They also provided some information on the success that they had. So I'll ask the board, do you want to, I don't think we need a presentation. Do you have questions? How do you want to proceed here?
I had one question, and that's why I asked Jeff to say it, because as we were reading about the homeowners' concern about pesticide, herbicide, just sort of the herbicide that gets getting used, you know, are we all very good and comfortable with its use around any groundwater, given how many wells we have around here? That was it was clearly something I hadn't asked yet last year. That was my only question, because I was connecting the dots.
Well, I don't, all I can say is that the herbicide that's used is called Transline, and it is the type of herbicide that is used to eradicate Tesol. Tesol is most commonly found along the roadsides. You're not going to find it in neighborhoods too much. You know, it's mostly roadsides and open spaces and meadows and places like that. So that's all I could tell you about that. You know, so I don't know. I guess I could ask the contractor that we're using if he has any information about that, but.
So I would just add one more thing. If you think about it, how many people use lawn care services? They're spreading a chemical called 2,4-D or something similar over their entire lawn 4 to 6 times every summer. And this is probably hundreds, if not thousands of homes. We are very selectively applying Transline, not in a broadcast manner, but selectively on specific plants. And we're doing this once or twice during the course of the year. So, and as Jan said, it's along the roadsides too. The point I'm making is, if you look at how much we're applying versus what everybody else applies on a regular basis, it's very, very small in comparison.
Understand. I wasn't trying to say it's an awful thing and we're trying to poison anybody.
No, I understand.
But I think, you know, given that we're making the grant, that we're actually spending the money, I thought it was a fair question to at least pose in public.
Yeah, definitely is. And by the way, we are using a contractor who is licensed to apply the herbicides.
I have a question for either Kent or Jan, and you know, we don't have to chat about it a whole lot, but what have you noticed with the Phragmites in Long Grove? Is that something that, I mean, I know there's only so much time and only so many people, but is that becoming a bigger issue than?
It is becoming a bigger issue, and Jan, you can jump in whenever you like.
Okay.
But yeah, that is becoming a bigger issue. We're trying to deal with that We are dealing with that at Reed Turner, and we're going to start treating it more aggressively at Longview Meadow. But you're right, it's everywhere, and it's very difficult. Just it's another one of those things. As bad as Tesol is, I think it's easier to control Tesol than it is to control Phragmites.
Yeah, there's an entire apartment complex in Lake Zurich on Route 22 that you can't even see their sign anymore.
Right.
Phragmites. It's disgusting when you drive past. You know, I almost feel like there ought to be a coalition, you know, of 4 or 5 communities to try to educate people and get some volunteers to do whatever needs to be done to mitigate some of that.
Yeah.
I can write an article about it, Rita.
Ooh. Yeah, the more people, the more people know about this stuff, the better. You know, a lot of them, like Sunset Foods, you know, they take the Tesol and spray paint it.
I know.
Put it in the planters at Christmas time, you know. And it's like, no, you're not supposed to celebrate those things.
I cringe every time I walk in.
Do you know if the Forest Preserve is doing any preventatives?
Yeah, they treat Tesol at Heron Creek. I know that.
Because along Lake Cook Road, it's.
Oh, Buffalo Creek. Yeah, Buffalo Creek
it's
has quite a
abundant.
bit of Tesol. Yeah. Because I walk there and I see quite a bit. So I don't know, you know, I'm sure it's a financial thing too. I mean, they put a lot of money into Buffalo Creek, you know, and I'm sure it's a huge forest preserve. So I don't know.
They may be waiting for the construction on Lake Cook Road anyway.
Yeah. Yeah. But there is.
Well, I wanted to thank you for including the map after I sent the note earlier. So thank you.
Oh,
for
sure. Sure. Yeah. I mean, you know, when you look at the map, I think it was 2019 or maybe even 2018, we did a drive through Long Grove and cited wherever we saw Tesol. And most of it was along state roads, county roads, and some village roads. You're not going to find Tesol in neighborhoods, but we've really made a lot of inroads in minimizing Tesol along the major roads in Long Grove. And if we keep doing what we're doing, you know, we're going to be in a really good way. And at some point we'll want to seed. Seeding native plants where we've eradicated Tesol is very expensive, but that would be the ultimate goal, would be to plant a lot of natives to prevent Tesol from coming back.
I know you've put a lot of time and energy into it. Thank you. I notice it, you know, and I think people who are aware of how bad it is notice what the work you're doing. Thanks.
Sure.
Well, it used to be that nobody even knew what it was.
Right.
And through Jan's efforts, a whole lot more people know what it is.
Yeah, that's
Yep.
like the Phragmites. People go, oh, aren't those pretty? It's like,
Aren't
no,
they pretty?
no, you don't
They
understand.
blow so nicely.
Right.
I would move approval of, I don't know if you're looking for a motion, but I would.
I
move that
am.
we
I was
approve this
trying to get
grant
that
request.
in, but I will let you go ahead. and move.
Sorry.
I would move that we approve this grant request for $10,000 for the Park District.
Second.
Okay, moved by trustee Kritzmeyer, seconded by trustee O'Connor. Did I get that
Thank
right?
you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Oh, thank you.
Okay.
Roll call, please.
Trustee Borowski,
Yes.
trustee Kritzmeyer,
Yes.
trustee O'Reilly,
Aye.
trustee Nora,
Yes.
trustee O'Connor,
Yes.
and trustee Michelle.
Yes.
All right, motion carried. Thank you so much for being here tonight. Thank you for what you're doing for us. We really appreciate it.
Nice for
Okay,
You're
you.
welcome, and thank you.
everyone.
Thank you. All right, moving right along. I think Melanie, you're up. This is a presentation from Vicarious Productions on social media opportunities and some discussion about the pros and cons and those kinds of things. So Melanie, you want to take it away, or did Bobby or Ann, did you want to do an introduction on this, or
I think it would be Bobby.
Bobby?
One quick
No,
question.
no, I think Melanie, we all know Melanie, and this is something that we've talked about on and off for a long time. And so she's here tonight to give us a whole presentation on what's involved and who's doing what.
Can Jeff Perry leave?
Jeff Perry can leave.
If you want to, so.
All right, guys.
Stay for the social media presentation.
Have a good rest of the meeting. Have a good night.
Good
See ya.
night. Thank you.
Good night.
Thank
You're
you.
welcome. Bye.
Okay, is it good for?
With Melanie is, Jeanette is here, who's working with Melanie too.
Mhm. For moral support.
Who's going to present?
I am. Can I share my screen? Is it?
Yes. Do you need to ask permission? How do I do that?
Okay. So what you do, go into the top right, the little,
Yeah, I'm looking for it right now. I'm in there right
and
now.
it
Yep.
says either you can make me a host, or even better, you can go to the bottom where it says share screen, and you can say make multiple people able to share screen.
I'm just going to make you a co-host. How about that?
Okay, co-host, you can do that. There's a couple.
There you go.
All right, thank you. All right, so let me just get set up here. Slideshow from the beginning. Okay. All right, so social media for local government. There's a lot to cover, so bear with me. We're going over 6 different channels today. The pitfalls, how to run them, the things we can encounter if you end up choosing to go that way. Here we go. All right, so just a little bit about us. So we are a creative firm. We have writers, editors, social media managers, graphic designers, photographers, videographers on staff, and we do manage a total regarding social media, 46 pages for various organizations. So we're experienced. All right, so one of the things about social media that is, you know, there are benefits. There are benefits and negatives to all things, but what it can do is it can exponentially increase your reach, the reach of local government. Also, the speed at which you can do that. It's the speed of light. It's a matter of putting a post up and clicking publish, and you're there. And it's really valuable for things that you do need to get out at a moment's notice. Like there's an accident at Old Mchenry and Robert Parker Coffin, please avoid the area for the next hour, things like that. So, and looking in neighboring towns and later in the report, we did do a profile of 17 area municipalities just right around Long Grove. The large majority, really the overwhelming majority, are of local government organizations. That's not just villages, it's counties, it's, townships and such in the north and northwest suburbs are using at least one. And the ones listed here are the top kind of 6 that we have observed in our work that people are using, or organizations are using rather. So Nextdoor, which is kind of newer to the scene, and I'm going to go over the benefits of that in a few slides from now. Twitter, LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. So these stats, and I'll apologize because we had another presentation that we updated. There's a lot of stats flying, and even the pages themselves, the organizations themselves have different reporting. So I believe this is the most accurate we found. But there's the reports vary. Social media, just on a side note, has blown up since last March. It became one of the primary communication tools. There's a lot more people signed up on social media pages just because the world became very digital with the onset of the pandemic. So just a quick overview on Facebook, and many of you might have pages. So the demographics are in the social media world with people that work it. It's kind of like the moms 25 to 40. That's a really big part of the crowd, which are the people who are normally making decisions for families. So it's a really good group to be tuned into. The way that we manage social media, Facebook pages rather, is just a multimedia approach. So we'll use just words, quick notifications, graphics, pictures, infographics, links to videos, websites, and we can engage with other pages. So through the pandemic with other clients of ours who are in local government, we've engaged a lot with the health departments, the county, Illinois Department of Public Health, and other fire districts for, things relating to fires and such when organizations are connected to a fire district. But you tag the pages, and that's the way you kind of increase the reach of those posts, which is the point at the end of the day, to increase exposure and reach of your information.
Melanie, Chris, before you go on,
Yeah.
can you explain what the yearly household income means? I don't quite understand that data set. It looks weird to me. I don't know what
Yeah.
it means.
Yeah, it's nothing to get too hung up on. It just, there's averages per IP address on the average income of a household, and the percentages that we found are the percentage of households with those levels of income that are on those pages. So for households of less than
Oh, I
30
see.
a year income, at least one individual has, in this instance, an Instagram page, right? So, you know, you can take it for what it's worth. I don't see it as a deciding factor. And even with some of the things that we had to adjust, there's kind of a main theme that we'll see throughout the presentation. But it's just a side note to show you, in this case, you know, there's a good range of, it's really all ranges. And in local government, income really doesn't matter. So including that was more just kind of interesting outside periphery information for you. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I understand what you're trying to convey there. Thank you.
Okay, great. So then Instagram. So this is an interesting one. It's really, while 60% of households above 100,000 are on Instagram, as far as our reporting found, this is a really out of the box, brand new social media channel that is growing like weeds. It is very much with the younger crowd. And for local government, a lot of times we're missing the younger crowd because they're not really following what's going on in their city or their town where they live in. So this is a way to kind of get to that younger demographic that you may not be reaching, or that organizations in general may not be reaching. It's really focused on photos and videos. So Long Grove is a very picturesque town. I know because we have hundreds and hundreds of pictures of Long Grove with the events, the yearly events that I hope are coming back, and all of the things that make it unique. So I would say that if there were considerations, Instagram could be a consideration because it's fair. There's lots of images to share. It's just another way to get the information across through video or pictures. Twitter, I think everybody knows Twitter. It's very fast moving, quick messages. A lot of local governments are using Twitter specifically in general, but also specifically for emergency notifications, public works, fire, and police, letting people know about accidents or fires, or stay away from this intersection. There's work going on. Public Works is working on a water main break. LinkedIn, so that's much more of a business angled social media channel. People are looking for jobs on LinkedIn for sure, but there's a lot of kind of business minded individuals. It's really the angle of LinkedIn, as if you use it, just going through the different channels, the EDC could possibly utilize LinkedIn potentially as maybe a kind of a sidebar, just to promote, well, first the TIF district that's becoming to life, the opportunities there, in addition to just promoting the general business community, and also promoting the efforts of the EDC, which have been pretty substantial over the last several months. And then Nextdoor, this is a really interesting new channel, and I actually like to call it the next best thing for local government. Now this, at the end, we'll talk a little bit about recommendations and kind of what your goals are. As a board, you're going to need to decide what your goals are as your policy, but Nextdoor is unique in the way that the only people that the municipality, if we were to create a page, the only people on these pages are either your residents or your businesses. No one else is allowed. I live in Palatine. I could not visit the Long Grove Nextdoor page, Village of Long Grove Nextdoor page. I wouldn't be allowed. So you have a unique subset category of just your stakeholders. So that's beneficial for local government, because when you look at the other sites, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Instagram, anyone can join. Someone from Australia can follow your Facebook page. But here you have your local audience, which, in essence is the subset group that you really do need to be reaching with public information. So that's one of the unique things. The other, there's a few unique things. This is also a privately owned social media channel. So we don't have as much reporting. You'll notice we don't have all these household incomes and number of users and all of that for Nextdoor, because a lot of the information about Nextdoor is not made public. But it is growing across the world. And right now in the United States, there's 145,000 active neighborhoods in the US. So I find it to be a really excellent tool. We have, and I have numbers a little bit later in the presentation, but we do manage the Village of Buffalo Grove's Nextdoor page. And we have managed it for 2 years, and we've been working with the municipality for 5. And the Nextdoor users in 2 years have doubled the followers on their Facebook page.
Hey, Melanie, can I ask you a question about Nextdoor? Because I signed up for that, but I don't see all of Long Grove. I see part of Mundelein, a little bit of Long Grove. So I can't connect. It doesn't really do me any good. It's kind of almost worthless for me. So are you saying that we'd have to contract with them to have Long Grove in its own structure or whatever?
Yeah, so what you do is you basically claim the municipal page. And then what happens is, and this would happen to you because of your address, is if the page were created, it's like a pop-up. You create it and all of a sudden the page actually opts you into it. So you would be looped into the village page if it were to be established. You do have the ability to opt out. In my experiences, people are on Nextdoor, they're always seeking information. So, I mean, when we started the page from 0 2 years ago in Buffalo Grove, it's grown to almost 10,000 followers.
So you're saying right now, Nextdoor's kind of put me in a group, right? Just based on where I live, but it doesn't have anything to do with my town, right?
Yeah, because the page hasn't been established.
Okay, thank you.
Exactly.
You're saying
have that problem
a
too.
local government page behaves differently than the just run of the mill next door.
Yes, yeah, Anne did send me an email about that. I was going to talk about that. So it's interesting how the experience, because the municipal page experience is totally different from the person, you know, seeing that this dog is lost and it's at my house. Whose dog is this? Or does anyone know a painter? I mean, that kind of traditionally is next door a little bit, which is great. But the way it works for the municipal page is that the municipality, the one managing it, can only see engagements with the page. So I, as managing Buffalo Grove's Nextdoor, I'm not witnessing all the back and forth referrals going on in the background privately. I can only see if people engage with the page itself. So, and that means, you know, posts. So for instance, just like we put out the semi-monthly e-newsletter, all those little parts could go out through social if they're more urgent. And then you'd put a post up, and if someone made a comment or asked a question, then we would see that. Another one final unique thing, and then if you have questions, please, break in, is that there's private messaging. I even did this today with Buffalo Grove. There was a question about, my road has not been plowed yet, and I'm wondering when it's going to be done. And so the person private messaged the page, and I was able to actually message the person back and said, can you give me your address, and we can figure out when they'll be. So there's that too. So it's an interesting new tool, and it's really catching on. So, and then also there's emergency alerts you can send through there, and you can also send to specific neighborhoods. So Bill, your account, it would kind of put you, if the page were established, it would put you in a kind of a neighborhood. It might not match up with the village calls its neighborhoods, but it would be geographically grouped. In a situation where there was something going on in that part of town and it just applied to them, we could send a special notification just to that area. So it's,
yeah, the problem is the way I see it now, it's not, you know, Long Grove's not, they don't see Long Grove as a community, I think. And, you know, I'm tied to a lot of unincorporated in other areas. So it's just interesting.
Well, I'm in southern Long Grove, and I get western Buffalo Grove and northern Palatine on mine.
There you go.
on your next one. Huh.
So Melanie, are you saying that if we had our own page, we would then get just limited information to Long Grove?
If you are on Nextdoor and you put in your address, being a Long Grove address, anytime the Village of Long Grove's Nextdoor page would post information, you would see it. It would be in your feed, your news feed, kind of like Facebook.
Okay, would I still get the dog lost in Mundelein?
Probably.
So that's the complicating thing. You aren't getting that. You wouldn't be getting that from the village. That's Nextdoor. That's the Nextdoor kind of user experience, individual resident user experience, as opposed to the municipal. So that is a situation, I think things could be cleaned up a little bit if we reached out to Nextdoor. I did that to establish the Buffalo Grove page, for instance. They have account managers and basically help them. I know there's a unique zip code with Lake Zurich and Long Grove, which would have to be ironed out. But if this were something that you'd be interested in, this is something we would look into and square away and figure out what the challenges are and why there is that crossover.
I think from my perspective, I'd like to get both. Is that what you're saying we would? So I would get the Long Grove because I live in Long Grove, and then I'd also get the Lost Cats in, basically I'm right across the street from Buffalo Grove.
Mm-hmm. That's it. You get both experiences. The
So
benefit,
you would get both.
you do get both. So
Okay.
you have a Long Grove address, and we created a page, created a Long Grove Nextdoor page. You would get the news from the village of Long Grove, but you would still see the Lost Cat post from your neighbors. But the village can't see that. Does that make sense?
I
So
understand.
it's almost like as a resident, I would have two different accounts. One for my Long Grove address and one for my physical address.
No, you have one account, but you have two ways of being reached.
Well, that's what I mean. It'd be like two different things together.
It's like getting news from your son and from your daughter. They might be overlapping, they might not.
That's funny. Good way to put it. All right. I know Nextdoor it's interesting. I'm doing a whole presentation on it soon, and it's like a whole can of worms in and of itself. Do you have any other questions on Nextdoor? I can keep going. I don't want to take your whole night away. We can always come back with other.
No, please keep going.
YouTube, and we won't spend too much time. That's really more of a supplementary. It's not something you would just have on your own, the only thing. But if there were ever a movement towards more video, that would be something that you might consider having as a nice supplementary social media tool. So we did do the research in the neighborhoods, neighboring areas, right? And so over the 17, and we broke it down. This is a lot nicer looking than what you saw over the weekend because one of our graphic designers was sick last week and the other one was covering for him. So I didn't have him when I was putting this presentation together. So at least there's some graphics and tables and charts coming up. So as you see, all 17 municipalities in the area are on Facebook, every single last one of them. And then we go to a little over the half for Twitter, and then LinkedIn, just a couple. There's more in the Naperville area. A lot of municipalities are doing that, but not up here for LinkedIn. And then Instagram is starting to grow. It's newer to municipalities. Everyone's kind of trying to put their toe in the water. We haven't done it in Buffalo Grove yet, but we're talking about it. And then just a couple on Nextdoor. And then YouTube is a little more even up with kind of Instagram level. So that's just how it kind of breaks out as far as the numbers. And the relatively comparable communities. And what I meant by that is more like population, kind of a little bit more rural character than like a Buffalo Grove or a Palatine. And those all, that's just how they break out, Barrington, which is on the higher end, but Bannockburn, Deer Park, Hawthorne Woods, Inverness, Kildare, Bluff, North Barrington, and Riverwoods. And here's some just brief examples, comparables. Just either of them have a couple that have a few that have 2, 3 stations, and the number of followers they're getting. And then Buffalo Grove. So and I came over the weekend and just kind of some anecdotal. So this is an example from the Buffalo Grove Facebook page. So over the last, a little less than a month, we've reached 18,000 people, and the engagements, 11,000, more than 11,000 people have engaged with those posts. The followers, and this is a page that was started 5 years ago by my firm, 5,876, with a population of 43,000. Twitter, 1,600, LinkedIn, 661. Nextdoor, nearly 10,000 followers. We're getting there, and we keep growing every day. It just keeps growing and growing. YouTube, and then 4,000 email subscribers. I include that just because we're going to talk about email subscribers for Long Grove in a little bit. So whatever social media channel you choose, the idea behind it is to be where your stakeholders are, because not all of them are tuned into your e-newsletter, and maybe all of them are getting the village, the bridge that we send out every other month. But that's really the only way we're getting them, unless there's a Blackboard, 911 notification sent through the village. So it's about being where people are and giving them the public information that they need when they need it. And that's the benefit of social media. It's quick, it's nimble. We can do it right away, immediately, send a quick notification and people know. So, and the way it would be managed. So the way the pages are managed, at least what we do for our municipal clients, we're doing weekly posts. We want to make sure that the pages look updated. We don't post just to post. We want to put information that's valuable. We monitor daily because people do ask questions, have needs. And then correspondence through messaging. Obviously, the more we work with a municipality, and we've been with Long Grove for a few years, we really good sense of you, but there might be times where we need to reach someone and say, hey, how should we answer that? And we would always do that. The type of messaging we talked about earlier, words, video, links to websites, graphics, infographics, anything that can help get the message across. This next one is something that I think comes up a lot. What do we do with people who are just not being kind? So the challenge with that is if someone puts a post up like, I hate this town, right? There's nothing we can do about it. It's free speech. But we do want to make sure that we act on what I call actionable posts. So while someone says, I hate this town because every time it snows, my road is not cleaned for hours and hours. Deep in that is to do with snow plowing. So we need to take that and turn it around and do what we did with next door earlier today, saying, okay, can you give me your address and let me find out what's going on? And then we elevate that up to Public Works, or, in Long Grove's case, Ela Township, to say what's going on. This is a complaint in this side of town. We need to figure out what's going on. So, and on that, and I sent along with the attachments was, if you were to establish social media, we would need to create a policy to follow. And there are rules, and the example I sent gives specific kind of instances on how and when you respond, and how and when you can delete. You can delete posts if they violate policy or violate terms of use for the page. So utilizing some form of social media could help the village to have a more immediate connection to stakeholders, which are residents, businesses, property owners, and cast a wider net for overall communications. One of the challenges I see right now as far as reach is we have the semi-monthly newsletter, which has a little over 1,500 subscribers, but you have nearly 8,000 residents. So that's one, not terribly representative of everybody. And two, we don't know how many of those people actually are residents. So social media could, one of the benefits could help to market the e-newsletter to get more people signed up. In Buffalo Grove, every time that we do a newsletter, an e-newsletter, we publish it on all the social media channels, and we create a sign up for the e-newsletter. And that e-newsletter sign up has grown by 50% since we started doing that over the last year and a half. So it really does help to engage more people. Does anyone have any questions? I want to make sure I don't. Okay, so this is the question you really need to ask yourself: what are your goals? What are if you're interested in social media, what do you want to do? I look at it in two buckets. If you want to just make it very simple, one is you should, as a municipality, you want to be reaching the people that you serve, that you're a taxing body. So there's the goal of making sure that you're reaching as many residents and businesses and property owners, all of your stakeholders, as you can. And then the second is, Long Grove is a town to be marketed. There is a lot going on. It's got its own unique character. As I mentioned earlier, I know we're all hoping for events to come back, and there's a lot to promote in Long Grove, sorry. So you want to make sure that you have the ability potentially to also market your town, like utilize it as an extension of a public relations tool, if you will, to get visitors here, to restaurants and the great shops and come to the events. So that's what, as a board, you need to determine what your goals are. So there, I'll stop talking. If anyone has any questions, that was a lot to take in.
I have a question, Melanie.
Yeah.
Surprise. Is there a role in any of these possibilities for interactive? In other words, could we put out a question, a survey, so to speak, to get a reaction from people? Does that work?
Nextdoor even has that built into it. You can create surveys through Nextdoor, which actually is great since if you were to use it, these are just your residents. Because if you put out a questionnaire through Facebook or the others, I'm not putting those down, but they don't vet the people, right? So you get this. I love when I see someone complaining about something in the town that we work with that is from a totally different town. Why do you care? So yeah, so there are survey tools available through Nextdoor as well. I didn't mention that.
Yep, we have that ability through Polco.
I know Polco. Sure.
We're guaranteed it only goes to our residents, and we have yet to use it.
That's great. So yeah, so that would be
it's not great. We have not used it. We have the ability. We knew about it last summer, and we could easily use it for what are your thoughts on having cannabis in Long Grove?
Oh yeah, we never did that, did we?
We have not used it once.
Yeah, that's right.
Who was going to drive that questionnaire or that question if we were going to do the survey on cannabis? We talked about it and just kind of died.
I shared some information because two things. One was talking with Polco. This is off topic from this, but talked with Polco about any of their questions that we could use that have been vetted by research people to keep them neutral. I also shared the survey that Lake Zurich used to ask those questions, not just do you want it, but what kinds, growers, distributors, retail, and where. Like you could put it into, I don't want it on Old Mchenry Road, but I might be okay with it down by Lake Cook. So I did share some of that. I think we never really kind of said, well, where do we want to go next?
Yeah, and we do.
Well, it seems to me that we would have to have a whole set of criteria on how to use it. If we were going to go out and ask questions, is a 10% response, is that going to make decisions for us? I don't know, but I just was curious.
I think that's a whole different conversation, and I think you and I may see that differently, and I'd love to have that conversation, but I don't know that it's this one.
Oh, it isn't now, but that's to me the drawback of pursuing a questionnaire is that we have to have the foundation for it to be acceptable.
And that's
what
the people from Polco can help us with that, but I agree with Dan. That's another, we need to have that conversation, but maybe not right now.
Well, I think Chuck wants to talk about that later. So let's go back to the social media conversation here. I have a question though. It's really simple because, what I worry about is just putting another burden on our small staff or any of us. So are you selling a service, Melanie, that we subscribe to that will do this for us or what?
Yeah, so I mean, this came about, I think we started talking with David. We talked, it was kind of, didn't go anywhere. And then Anne reached out to me with this. I'm doing this for your information. We do manage social media pages for municipalities, for businesses. We manage a total, I think it's 46 total altogether. Between that I kind of showed off or highlighted for you today. So we do that, and we do a monthly relationship with the Village of Long Grove. So we kind of have all the pieces already. It's a matter of just taking those pieces and putting them on a social page, publishing on a social page if that's what the board desires. So we do manage that. That's part of our service.
So if you were looking at it, go ahead.
Please go ahead. Finish your thought.
If you were just looking at us right now, right? So, kind of the predicament we're in, we're going to be hiring a new village manager. We're actually down an associate right now. But social media could help us and could augment, maybe even help us get information out there. What would you recommend we start with? And would you be putting a proposal together of some services of, what what we would need to do something like that?
Yeah, I could. And I'll go back. I have recommendation. I want to go back to those two kind of goals. Like, you want to, you can have the goals of kind of promoting the town or kind of digging into your constituency, if you will, to make sure that you are really connected to them. You can get them the other way through the other channels that aren't specific like Nextdoor. It just probably takes a longer time. And, there's benefits to both. But let's just say if it were me, I wouldn't want to like start you off with like 3 or 4 at once. Probably like kind of start with one and get like a nice foothold. Facebook is mainstream. Everyone's on it. And I'm not one to follow the leader all the time, but it is kind of a mainstream channel.
Okay, Chris Borowski's not on mainstream, so let's on Facebook. So please, let's leave generalizations off the table. And even the data you presented shows that only about 20% of the residents of like Killdeer or Hawthorne Woods are on it. So when you say everybody's on it, I disagree with that because I think it's a generalization and too broad. And in my opinion, only reaching 20% of our residents isn't a good target for us. In my opinion, we're either on all of them or on none of them, because people need to know where to find our data. And if we mix it up between different platforms like the bridge, like the email blasts, like the phone calls, and then throw in a couple more social media pages, I don't know where people are going to turn to go get data from. And that to me is a problem. We publish something on Facebook, we say, here it is, people, great new announcement, but only 15% of the people actually get it. And the other 75 or 80, we assume they did. And that to me is a problem.
I disagree, Chris. I really do. I understand that it's a 15% or whatever it is, but I think what it is that the mosaic matters and there are different areas. You're not going to put late breaking news about, somebody crashed into the bridge again and you can't use Robert Parker Coffin Road on Instagram unless you want to have the horrific pictures. That would be a Facebook and a newsletter kind of thing. LinkedIn has possibilities for EDC because that's where businesses are looking for information. And if we ever had the opportunity to spend some money behind it, you can target business population. So to me, it's a bit, I don't know about your kids, but mine start with Instagram. I've also noticed, though, if I want to go figure out, is a restaurant open for outdoor dining? I got to go to Facebook because that's way easier for them to keep maintained than their website. I can't trust their websites anymore. I got to go to Facebook. So to me, you're right, but it's also like the people that don't get this, get that.
That's my point. You got to go all or nothing. You can't just pick one. You can't cherry pick them because you're not going to hit the target audience. And the crowd's an older crowd in Long Grove, right?
Well, but that's a good point. And we are getting younger families moving in, which is kind of just the ordinary course of things. I think it's up to us to let our residents know where they can find us, because when residents complain frequently, one or the complaint, first part of it is, I never hear from you people. I don't even know what's going on. And it's like, well, and we hear that at board meetings sometimes. People show up and go, what's going on with downtown? And it's like, where have you been?
And then you can easily say, we come into your house 6 times a year. 6 times a year we come into your house.
Right.
That's electronically though, right?
No. That's
paper.
the mail. That's the
paper.
mail.
Okay, you're talking about, okay, all right.
It comes into the house.
I think Melanie's question's a great question. Sorry, Bobby, go ahead.
I was going to say, how can you evaluate if we were to do Facebook? Would they be the same people who get e-news?
No, so that's a really good question, Bobby. And that's the big challenge, which goes back to Ann's mosaic illustration of why it's great to be in many places. I don't disagree with you, Chris, about having a broad stroke is great and important. You don't know. You do not know unless everyone were to sign up and say, I'm signed up for the e-news, and then you take the names off Facebook. you're going to have crossover. You're going to have crossover, but the idea is to be in as many places you can be to reach as many people as you can as a taxing body.
But this would be an excellent topic for a survey question. Using
Yeah.
Which media should we use? Which media do we use to put the question out, to ask which media we should use?
Well,
the ones that are electronically connected. So you're stuck in the same place, right?
But
This is a question I could live with.
But these are people whose emails we have. You send out the question: do you use social media? Do you enjoy social media? What is your favorite? How many times a day or week do you use it? We're interested. Period. Just see what kind of response you get.
I think also it's not just you, because whoever is subscribing to the e-newsletter, like might be me, but then also, are there others in your household? And how did they get information?
Right.
You know, my kids want to figure out what band is at Buffalo Creek Brewery. I might not be so interested, but both are important.
Well, the other thing that reading through all of these possibilities is, would we be creating a conflict with the HDLGBA?
I see it as cooperation and a partnership.
Yeah, you could create a.
That was going to be my question: is how do we collaborate? Because I would assume we'd collaborate.
Yeah, I breezed through I didn't want to weigh you guys down with all the stats and everything, but like for Facebook, for Instagram, there's tagging, there's looping pages in, or even sharing from pages. So if the HDLGBA is going to put up something about their next big event that's happening, the Villages page could just share their post right over to the Villages page. So it's like sharing the love and creating.
You know that I apologize for interrupting you. Were you?
Oh no. Yeah, I was finishing. Yeah.
Okay. I think that is a policy issue that we need to consider. People already think that we own the downtown. That they don't understand that it is a separate. They are separate. They're privately owned. Blah blah blah. And I think we do. I think there could be a statement made that says we concentrate primarily on the downtown as a board. Like the drone shop that we had recently, and I understand why and how and so on and so forth, but I think there is a misperception in the community, and the question is, how much do we want to partner, collaborate, cooperate? Should we keep it separate? I don't know the answer to that, but I think it's something worth a discussion.
I think it's a fair discussion. I would almost think that by sharing, that would emphasize that these are two separate.
Then what? Okay, and then we need a way to also put out the same feelers or same kinds of ads, so to speak, for Weiss Properties, Long Grove Commons, Menards.
Sure.
Sure. It would have to include every entity, not just one or two. So
well, let me do this. I think this is a great dialogue. So, but what do we want to accomplish tonight? We've got the presentation. I mean, Chris says all or none.
Actually, I say none because I don't think we need it.
All right, none. So Chris says none. Then, Melanie's suggesting, Facebook's used a lot. That might be a good starting point to see if it works. I mean, we could always experiment, but what does the board want to get done tonight? With this introduction, is this something we want to think about more, or is there some action you want to take tonight?
I would like to hear from one or two others who do this same kind of thing to see what they have to offer, what would be involved in pursuing it.
Meaning who, other municipalities?
Other vendors who do this.
Oh, other vendors, okay.
Yeah,
I would like to know how much it's going to cost. I mean, I'm really curious what we're talking about budget-wise to do.
And does it put a burden on current staff in any way?
Well, as far as we go and, reaching out to other vendors, I would say the cost would be based on how many pages you have, because there's different work to be done if you have one compared to 3.
As an example, if we started out with Facebook, what would that cost as far as monitoring the creation and monitoring it?
We would wrap it into our monthly. Can I get you that information? And I don't know.
No, of course you can. You can,
Yeah, I
that
don't
might
think
be a
it's
good place
fair
to
to-
start.
to count.
Yeah. Yeah, don't make a
You
number
don't
up
want to
tonight.
hold you to something.
So, I thought it was a very good presentation. I
Yeah.
don't do social media, but I want to point out something that I found really interesting. You've had Nextdoor in Buffalo Grove for a short period of time, right? But that's the biggest subscriber base you have of all the 5 you've presented, or the 6
Yep,
you've
and
presented.
it's all Buffalo Grove residents.
And, my wife's on Nextdoor, everybody, I think it's mostly wives and moms, but that's okay too, right? Because I count on my wife to inform me of the important stuff.
There
Because
are
I
a
don't
lot
do
of
social
men,
media.
there are a
I'm
lot of
just not
men.
a social media guy. My thing is, I think if we're going to dip our toe into it, Nextdoor would be the right one to start with. Just one man.
Yeah, back to Rita's, I think, about how it's managed. It doesn't put the way we manage it. We don't put the weight on village staff. We manage it, so it's part of our responsibility, and it's kind of a nice natural transition if we were to do it, since we have been working with the village for as many years as we have. We know the history. We know that we've written about the bridge for 3 years. Old Mchenry Road reconstruction and Rapid Parker Cut. We're very embedded in the information. So it's not, I wouldn't be opposed if you chose an outside, but it would be clunky because it's more just like kind of a part of the ongoing communications. They all fit together with e-newsletter, the bridge, social media. It's kind of holistic, and it flows nice since we have a decent history now with the village. But it's whatever you want.
But it could be another set of eyes. It could be just other ideas. And
oh yeah,
I would just rather have a comparison.
Sure.
Well, maybe a good place to start though is, Rita, is to have Melanie give us a proposal.
Sure.
Because maybe when you look at the pricing, maybe it may not make sense to go elsewhere. I don't know what we're talking about. And the other thing is, it's the Nextdoor versus Facebook, or, I don't know how you do that, but maybe you can be creative and come back to us with a recommendation proposal thing.
Probably not surprisingly, but I actually would favor both of those as the beginning and then stop for quite a while, unless the EDC wants to get involved in LinkedIn, or we end up with a bunch of students who have lovely pictures for Instagram. But for the reasons that Chuck says, I think Nextdoor it's a lot more viral and human. To me, it feels more like our personality, about being people. And Facebook to me is just nimble, and it's where a lot of people, I know not Chris, not everybody, and a lot of my friends who are school teachers are never going to be on Facebook either. But it is where a lot of people are looking for fast breaking info like that. Like, here's the new menu, or here's the new COVID situation.
If you're on Facebook, would it not be a business page?
It's a government organization page. We would establish that as a government.
Yeah, it's not like, be my BFF. It's a business page.
Right. I'm just saying people are there because that's the best place to figure out.
Right.
Can I get thing from Joni's?
Right. I understand.
And Chris, what you said before was, I meant all the municipalities are on it. Not everyone. I know plenty of.
Yeah, but the residents aren't.
Right. No, I was just saying
Right.
all the municipalities. That's what I meant.
I get it, but the residents aren't. So if we're reaching out to 15 or 20% of our residents, it's good, but is it what our residents want? Is it the way they want us to communicate? And to me, that's kind of a question. And really your original question, which is very, very valid in my mind, is what's the goal? Is it to promote the village? For what purpose? How do we measure that? Is it to attract businesses? Is it to communicate information instantaneously? We have some of those vehicles available to us today. So what's the goal is really the question before the proposals, because to Chuck's point, Nextdoor, Facebook, whatever, they're different media and they do different things in a sense, they're different targets, different target audiences,
But
I
if,
don't, I'm sorry, go ahead, Bobby.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, that was it. I think we really need to ask the question, why? And what the goals are, what the targets are, what the measurables are, what the deliverables are before we spend any money on it.
Would it be possible to do, what would Facebook cost us? What would Nextdoor cost us? And what would the two of them together cost? Because I think there's validity in Nextdoor being the option instead of Facebook. That would avoid the what I see as the potential conflict with the HD LGBA. But pricing wise is probably going to be the biggest issue.
Right. I could do that, certainly. And
Okay, great. No, and we still need to work backwards, from there too, to Chris's point about what we want to accomplish. But just even having a rough idea, just even a recommendation, what you think we could use it for and what it might cost would be helpful to us, I think.
I actually think we don't have a choice but to get on some type of social media. And I hate social media, but I still think it's important for the village. So
to what end? To accomplish what?
Sometimes you just have to, because that's the way the world's going.
Well, we could build a Walgreens in every corner too, and that's the way the world's going. But we choose not to do that, right? We choose to stay different.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So my
That's
point
kind of
again
what I
is
like
to what
about Nextdoor. It's a little bit more. I don't even know what it's. I hate to use the word homey, but it's just for our residents, and we're not going to get a bunch of people from all over the world chiming in on whatever crazy idea that you might have about a town they've never been to.
But that's hoping that there's enough residents who sign up that we get the message to the residents and not just a minority of the residents.
It's true.
Well,
Very true.
everything, I agree. There are pluses and minuses to each of them. Facebook really is kind of yesterday. Instagram is today, period. Nextdoor, there's a lot of nastiness. There's a lot of mudslinging and, whatever's on it. And some people say, I'm done with this site. This is not what it's for, so blah, 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 blah. The municipal page will cut out some of that, I would think. But
there's still some, but a lot of times posts that come in our experiences actually create opportunities to understand what's going on in the resident mind and what they don't know or understand. So I would say, I think a lot of times when organizations venture into this, because this is a first, right? What's going to happen? Is everyone going to act like a crazy person? It really is really surprising that it's not as bad as it seems it could be. But you do have occasionally people that you just either have to ignore or find a way to, kind of positively reach back and just stay above. And that's what the policy is about, how we handle those things.
Well, so this is a good spot, I think, to stop right now, right? So we don't go the whole night, because this will go on for a while. Are you okay if we stop here, get the proposal? That'll give us, maybe on the next agenda or however when you can do it. And then we can talk, pick it up again. Everyone can give it some thought.
Yeah.
Is that good? Can we do that?
I really would like more than one proposal.
All right, but let's see what we get first, and then let's see what we get first. But we can always get another proposal, but at least the starting point right now, and is that?
Well, it would just hurry things up if we could do things simultaneously, but
let's see what we get back. Read it before we go further. I think that's just a good place to start.
Mm. And
I think
Melanie,
having
your opinion would be very much appreciated. Assuming
Mm-hmm.
we're going to jump into one right now, I'd love to know what your thoughts are. You don't have to say it tonight, but part of your proposal maybe.
Okay. Well, as if that's what I'm doing, I don't know if you have consensus that that's what you want me to do, but if you do, we could do, as Ann and Bobby mentioned, Facebook on its own, Nextdoor on its own, and Facebook and Nextdoor together. And to make matters even more interesting, Facebook owns Instagram, and there's a connection where you can post to Facebook and it can push to Instagram, which I didn't mention in my proposal. I know it gets, but anyway, I could start with just the Facebook and just the Instagram and the two together and what we would do and what we would charge. It becomes a little nominal just because we're already working with you. But I will price that out for you. Absolutely.
Chuck wants to see the next door. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
I would just say, I think next time also, if we could have, mentally save some time for our own discussion, because I think Melanie posed it as reaching businesses, residents and businesses, like a transparency potential for success. I almost see it as there's resident communications, which we take care of already, if you will, through the email and the bridge, the printed bridge. Then marketing to help our businesses, that's trying to reach customers, and then trying to reach other businesses. So to me, there's almost three audiences. And I think it's fair for this board to discuss how we want to communicate with them. And if you think I'm totally off base on that thought.
Well, we could probably go off on this for quite a while, but something you just said, Ann, makes me, reminds me that the LGBA is marketing the businesses in downtown. Where we have a shortfall is that nobody is marketing the businesses out of downtown. And maybe that's, something that we could be doing. But I'm not sure that's something that's appropriate for us to do or cost effective.
Yeah, I agree. Is that our job? Is that what we're supposed to do?
Well, I think, why don't we just stop here, because we'll go on and we'll, this is a good stopping point. We got a few other things on the agenda. I think, Melanie, if you come back to us with some information, pricing, a proposal, some recommendations, I think that'll help us think about it some more. And then everyone will have some time. This is the first chance we've really had a serious discussion on social media. So I think it's been a great discussion, and I look forward to continuing it.
Great.
Absolutely. Thank you, Melanie. Very good report.
Thank you. Thanks for getting me.
Thank
I
you.
don't want to be rude, but I gotta get my son to bed. Swinging that.
A lot of that going around.
He's 12. He'll stay up all night if I don't get him moving.
All right, Melanie. Good night.
Thanks, Melanie.
Good night. Good night.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. I'm going to move us to the next agenda item, which should be an easy one since it's been so successful. It's consideration of a special event application, sleigh rides from the historic downtown Long Grove Business Association. Anyone want to make a motion?
So move.
Second.
Moved by Trustee O'Reilly, seconded by Trustee Michaud. Amy, are you still there?
I am. All right, Trustee
Do the
Michaud.
honors.
Aye.
And Trustee O'Connor,
Aye.
Trustee Nora,
Aye.
Trustee O'Reilly,
Aye.
Trustee Kritzmeyer,
Aye.
and Trustee Borowski.
Yes.
All right, motion carried. The next item is a review of a demolition permit and request to waive the waiting period for the review, notify, and request the Historical Society for their review of the building located at 3217 RFD, which is the Grove Country Club. It's the former workers' quarters. Bill, do you have anything to add on that? Did you hear anything?
Yeah, there's not a lot of, the goal is to get the building down from the owner. There's not a lot of external beauty to the structure. You can see it from 53. It's kind of a combination storage, extra patio furniture, stuff like that. I don't think that the Historical Society is going to see much value in the building, but they should be asked. I think that's consistent with our practices, but I don't know that I think it's a 6-week waiting period. If they're ready and they have a contract to pull it down, and I said the permit gets issued as soon as the Historical Society gives us the green light, I think we can get that thing out of there. We've talked about property maintenance on Route 53 and other corridors. This would be a small win for us if we could get that out of there sooner rather than later. And it's not presently in use except as a storage facility that we are aware. And when it was in use as worker quarters, I'm not sure how that was compatible with some of the standards that we have in the village. So it's probably a good thing to get rid of. Not cutting out the Historical Society, but we might be able to let them know, say, hey, if you can get a contract in 2 weeks, clean that up and let's move on. So that was the essence of it. If there was a historic building, like one of the downtown buildings, that demanded analysis and evaluation of materials and windows and things of that sort, I don't think you would waive this requirement. But the property that we're looking at is visible from 53 and not very attractive. And it would probably be a good thing to clean it up and get it out of there. and that's what the owner wants to do. So.
Hey, Chris Malski, you're going to have a comment, right?
Well, I'm gonna do some encoding. I'm gonna do some encoded and cryptic messages over to Vic. I mean, in light of the mountainous dirt pile that's still there, I mean, is this something that we want to, consider keeping to statute on? Does that help us in any way?
I don't think so. I mean, this is an independent aspect of their activities, and it's really a question of whether, the reason why, and we've talked about this before, the reason why we have that waiting period is in the event there is a building that has any kind of historic value, it gives the Historical Society or whomever else might have a sufficient interest an opportunity to garner the funds or do whatever it is they need to do to potentially purchase the property for preservation purposes. If this property or this particular building on the property really has no value of historic benefit, and it's, as Bill has described it, a bit of an eyesore, I would think there might be some advantage to getting it demolished sooner than later. Certainly the board's motion can be to waive it subject to some indication from the Historical Society that it sees no particular value in it. And that way we've covered that base without simply extending the time for the 4 months. But I don't think that this bears on the Berm issue that we have resolved, but has not yet been completed.
Okay, corollary follow-on question, Counselor. I thought back when we passed this way back in the day, we also had consideration for like law enforcement. Let's say, you don't want me killing somebody in my ugly barn and then coming in tomorrow and bulldozing it, giving kind of law enforcement some time to, consider, waive, or clear anything that, somebody might be trying to hide. John Wayne Gacy, good example.
Yeah, law enforcement really doesn't have a right to go on the property either before or after a demolition.
Right.
If you brought up the Gacy matter, that was not something that was learned about as a matter of.
My point was, if it was under investigation and we go knock it down, was that part of the consideration, trying to protect against that occurrence? Like,
my recollection is that if that had been part of the conversation, it really wasn't the driver on it. It was really, how do we preserve buildings that may have historic value? Because it came up in the context of whether we should establish a more formalized historic preservation ordinance and landmarking system. as some communities do. Some communities have systems within their ordinances where buildings are identified as local landmarks. And when they are so identified, they cannot be demolished, sometimes for up to a year. So, that conversation was part of what led to the waiting period. But the village took the softer approach of, let's have the waiting period to see if there might be some kind of private endeavors to preserve a building that might have some value, rather than using, the village's more heavy-handed government authority to preserve such buildings.
Thank you, Vic. I appreciate that. Knock it down, move to waive, move to approve and waive the waiting period.
One of those times when I think rules are rules. These people have not adhered to one of our rules ever. And it's time they do.
Thank you, Bobby. I couldn't agree more.
I just wondered if this would be part of the landscape plan that we are also waiting for.
Right.
There certainly isn't any, again, this is a discretionary action on the part of the board. You don't have to approve this. I think Ann's suggestion of, I think Jeff might have, I don't see Jeff still on the screen, but I think Ann's suggestion of saying, if you want to move forward with this, before you do, you have to meet some benchmark
Aren't they
activities
already
related.
required to meet the benchmark of the landscaping plan?
You may recall that was part of the original draft of the agreement. What we did end up with was essentially a final drop dead date for everything to be done. And if they don't complete it by that time, they're not off the hook as far as completing it, but they are bound to pay us. I believe the number was $40,000. So the timing of this related more to the final completion, and it would still have to be done even if they don't meet that June, I think it was June 30th or June 1st, I don't recall offhand. Even if they don't meet that date, they'd still have to do the work, but they would also have to pay the money. So that was the way we ultimately got the incentives in place. But I think there is much value to keep a little bit of feet to the fire to say, yes, we'll approve this subject to the historical society confirming that it doesn't have any historical value, and delivery of an acceptable landscape plan.
We could also just say, before we open new business, can we take care of old business?
I couldn't hear you, Rita.
Another way to put it would be, before we open up new business with the Grove, can we take care of the old business that's pending? Maybe that would be a non-vindictive way to ask the question, or just do it procedurally, the way you just recommended it.
Well, let's go around the horn. So let's just poll everyone. Chris, what do you want to do?
I don't care. It's ugly. We can knock it down. I get it. I initially thought let's hold our feet to the fire and not approve this, but I don't know necessarily one's gonna facilitate the other.
Okay. Ian.
I would like to say they owe us a landscaping plan. I think that the faster we can get that, the faster we're inclined to say yes to this. Faster. Otherwise, we'll wait.
Okay, thank you. Rita?
Come back to me, please.
Come back to you. All right, Bobby?
I could live with, we get the landscaping plan in hand and then they can tear their building down.
Okay, thank you. Chuck?
I agree. Landscaping plan first. Remember, the owner told Jeff he thought we were doing the landscaping plan. These guys are slippery, man.
Yeah.
I would say landscaping plan first.
Jenny?
Or they can wait 120 days.
Thanks, Chuck. Jenny?
I'm fine with tearing it down now.
Okay. I don't think we have enough though to tear it down now, so, right? So I think what you have is, Bill, is you got to go back to him and say I think the board will agree to, waive the 120-day waiting period. It's 120 days. If we get the landscaping plan, that's due per the other agreement. And we can, if they can get it to us, we can get it back on the agenda and have it waived.
Okay. We'll take it that direction. I think that's where the majority was. So I'm looking at my score sheet here. Get the landscaping plan, and that seems to be the clearest majority, and we'll work with you.
Yeah, it's 2-4. Yep. So. All right. And that was non-official. We didn't vote on it, but
right.
That's how it looked. All right. So we're going to move on to the next agenda item, which is the presentation of the treasurer's report. It came a little late today. It was what I didn't realize, and Ann and I figured this out. It was actually in a file folder under the financial folder on the Google Drive. And I don't know if Ann, if you had a chance to look at it. I did observe one thing, and it says that we're at 97% of budget coverage. So I thought that was interesting. That's pretty cool. Mm-hmm. Is that correct?
I believe it's correct. Yeah, as I said, I didn't know it was posted until you and I were talking at like 6 p.m. So all I had was a chance.
Where is it?
It's in a separate folder on the Google Drive under finance. It's under financial details.
So in the past, we would get a PDF of this in our, materials Thursday, Friday before. And Dave would post the Excel versions later in a folder. So this is kind of like part of that practice, but I didn't get this in time at all.
You want me just to put that back on our February 9th agenda, so we could, because it was really late to get distributed. We're gonna have the pay warrant on that.
We can do that, or maybe try to maybe I can just try and write a memo or something like that. It may be me, but my stomach says we're getting a really full agenda for the 9th right now.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. Well, let's see. I guess, I don't know who's going to write that memo. So,
I spent some time also with, Bill, how about you and I can talk and we'll figure this out, because I think we need to meet next week anyway on next year budget kind of conversation.
You talk about this Bill B?
You, Bill B. Sorry.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
Manager Bill.
We can do that.
Manager Bill.
Okay.
Yep. There's too many bills in this village, literally and figuratively. So, but the only good news is if we're at 97% coverage, that's because we didn't spend any money. We're sitting in a much better spot, right? So you guys can look through that in a little more detail. That's a great situation to be in. So
the other thing, we have that. The other thing after talking with Debbie today also is recall, and this will be something I think also for the next fiscal year budget, is getting real clarity on what we want to do with the TIF money. There is money in the TIF budget, right? Or the TIF account. We need to send that over probably to open space funds and clarify and not just sit there and talk about it, but actually have some very clear procedures so that she can make it happen.
Yep. And do something with it, right? We've been kicking the can on it. So great point.
That might, this is Vic. I might remind you that we had for a while, but never really got to it on executive session, investments as a topic, and it does wrap into the TIF discussion. So I think before any decision is made, it might be worthwhile having and I don't think the 9th would be the time given the other items that are expected in executive session, but perhaps by the, would it be the 23rd would be a good opportunity to have that conversation, and we can recirculate the memo that we had prepared probably about February of 2020, maybe even earlier. I don't know.
Yeah, and we had targeted the 23rd also for a very preliminary first draft of next fiscal year budget. So wrapping those together in terms of budgeting for the TIF fund as well, I think would be tidy.
Yep. Well, the fact of the matter that we didn't do anything with the money gives us the ultimate flexibility. So it was just sitting there in case of an emergency. So I think now we're in a much better spot. We can make a decision what to do with it. So, you know.
Yeah, I mean, it's still TIF money. So there's only so many emergencies it can address, but.
Yeah. Understood. Understood. All right. So we're going to move to the next agenda item, which is the village president and trustee reports. The only thing I will say for mine is that, and just I'll remind everyone that, you know, this is being recorded. So anything you say will be up there for applicants that may be applying for the job. But I did reach out to Baker Tilly last week and this week. Sharon produced a report. It was out of date already of who has applied. There's actually 16 people that have applied for the position. I did speak to her today. It looks like there's some good quality candidates, and she'll be on the agenda to speak to us in executive session for the next meeting to kind of give us a status on what they found so far. So that's all I have. I don't know if you have any questions, but I did send that note out last night, and she also sent one out this morning as well. All right, it's silence.
Applicants.
What'd you say?
I'm happy to hear there's that many applicants. Fairly
Yep.
short period of time, so.
Yeah, and Bill's been getting some calls as well. So he's been referring them to, you know, to Baker Tilly, their website to apply. So there's
Yeah,
seems
the
to be a
people
lot
that
of
have called
interest.
me, you know, if they apply, it'll richen up the pool with pretty good people, pretty solid people.
So
good to hear.
Yeah, it's good to hear. So should be a good thing. Looking forward to it. All right. Next thing is the report of the EDC. Trustee Michaud.
Hi. Yeah, so I feel like the EDC is getting some great traction. We had another good meeting. Denise has been doing some great work for us. She has updated the EDC website with all of the COVID-19 business resources that we've got through Sickage, so that's great. We're also talking about potentially like breaking out like just a PPP page, you know, to make it really easy to navigate. I think the biggest thing I wanted to talk to you about tonight is we're trying to figure out how to market the TIF and get that information out that we have this new TIF and our existing TIF. And it was suggested that perhaps I reach out to Lee Brown at Tesca about putting together like some bullet points on TIF opportunities. You know, such things like the village willing to collaborate on infrastructure upgrades, or also pointing out the access to 53 and Lake Cook Road, the available acreage, and but he might be able to help style that a little bit more effectively. And are you okay if I do that, everybody? Or if, I don't know if we can do that in-house.
Go ahead, because I mentioned it to Bill. I had a conversation with Bill Ball today, so he may have some insights because I didn't mention it to him. Where the meeting went, and Ann was there this morning too. I don't know if anyone else was, but where we went off a little bit, off the rails a little bit, was one of the commissioners was talking about we needed to be specific about what it is we were going to offer them. And I was like, oh, hold on a second, nothing specific at this point. It's, you know, we have this now, so we can do certain things, but we don't want to say, oh yeah, we're going to put sewers in, or we're going to do, you know, whatever, right? It's more generic. And so it was just, how do you say that? How do you message it so you can let people know that we have the TIF? And I mentioned that to Bill. Bill had some thoughts. I don't know, Bill, if you want to share those.
Yeah, I think you're right. Maintaining flexibility and adapting improvements to what ultimate development plan comes forward. I think the big win for the village has already been achieved, and that's you set up the TIF district. That creates some level of certainty. It's not talk anymore. It's a real thing. And that's a big plus for somebody that's penciling out deals and putting together ideas. But we don't have this is not a piece of a huge infrastructure plan of which this would be a part of it. So you're much more effective, I think, maintaining flexibility and say, come forward, let's see what you have, let's see what your needs are. And then from a policy standpoint, assess that. And I think that's a better strategy overall in terms of rolling out the effectiveness of the TIF district. But you've certainly created certainty because you've got it established and it's moving ahead, but it could move in different directions. And again, the TIF funding eligibility still governs everything. So anyone that's a sophisticated investor would know that there are parameters on what you can use TIF money for and what it might look like. But I think it could vary significantly between alternate development plans should you get to that point, and you'd want to maintain your adaptability and flexibility. It would be my recommendation.
Yeah, I don't disagree with you. I absolutely agree with that. So, but one of the talks is, well, getting the fact that we have these TIFs out there and how do we word it so there is flexibility to that wording, just so we can kind of broadcast it. So that's why I suggested, or we thought maybe reaching out to Lee might be a good way to make sure that we are wording it with flexibility, in that wording, so we're not locked into something. But maybe we can do that, like I said, in-house, just sitting down and, so we make sure we're not getting boxing ourselves in.
So Bill or Jim, Hogue, do you have that expertise, or would you be able to put that blurb together? Because they're looking for something that they can use to market it. So,
well, I think the big win is the certainty that we have it in place, and that's, I think we shout that from the rooftops that we're ready to go, and we mean business. And as a matter of policy, we're launching in this direction. But I think it's also important to have people once that message received, to have them present to us and bring forward what it is their strategy would be to maximize the utilization of the TIF district. And that could go in several directions. And again, it's all going to be governed by what, and Lee's an expert in that. I mean, what is eligible as a TIF funded expenditure, and people that are sophisticated in investing and utilizing TIF financing are aware of those limitations as well. So it could move in a direction that would surprise us once we define what it is that we have an opportunity to seize. So I'm not in the best position to do that. I'm in terms of coming up with specific alternatives. I mean, if it was an infrastructure plan, you could come up with some concepts and some order of magnitude costs and some eligibility, but I don't think that's necessarily the direction of this. This is going to be, something that's going to be significant, and we want to leverage those TIF dollars to achieve whatever our community development goals are in that area.
Yeah, I don't think I'm getting across what I'm saying is, let's focus on what does this property have that makes it a unique TIF, like the acreage available or the access to Lake Cook Road and 53. But I just thought running it by, somebody else that knows more about TIFs, that am I missing a key, or are we missing a key component that would be good in getting that information out? Because we don't, many TIFs are tied to financial incentives. We do not have that. So what makes this TIF valuable? Why do people want to look at this TIF? Mina, who is a TIF expert on the EDC board, she deals with TIFs a lot, and they're almost always tied to financial incentives. And so how can we entice people to look at our TIF without that financial incentive?
This is Vic. If I might,
go ahead, Vic.
I was going to make 2 points. One, because it's a TIF, actually it is tied to financial incentives. It's really a question of which incentives are used. I think that the notion when the board was considering this is that we will not be using incentives where we're putting money out there and building it in hopes that they will come. Rather, we would make the incentives available based on what they're able to leverage themselves, i.e. their own tax dollars that they might be paid, or perhaps a sales tax incentive agreement where they get some rebate of sales tax that they generate, not 100%, but a rebate. So that would be part of it. I think in terms of the advertising, so-called, about this, that we should make sure, I presume that they know, we should make sure that Menards and Dr. Levin, which are the two largest property holders in the TIF, are fully aware that this has been put in place, and they should be read into the fact that the village, while it's not likely to advance any monies in the notion of issuing bonds, would be amenable to looking at other uses of TIF funds, because they're the ones that are trying to sell the property or develop it, and they would then come to us with a proposal that we can evaluate. I don't think we need to sell it so much as just get the word out and let people try to sell us as to what they're looking to do with the TIF, because TIFs are, as Bill Walling mentioned, TIFs are well enough known among those who are likely to be developing. The question is, do they know that this one exists?
So first off, Dr. Levin was in the meeting today, so he's well aware of it. But Ann, you had a comment, and I just wanted to make sure that, because I know you were trying to say it a few times. Did your comment get covered, or?
To me, this is not about, it's not about making a decision on, as already been covered. We're not making a decision on what we're offering here. It's a marketing piece. Venus just looking for a one page that has enough specificity to hook the kind of developer or investor that we're looking for, but is loose enough that it meets our needs. To me, it's a marketing piece. It needs good language. It needs understanding of what's allowed in the TIF, but it needs some good language. You know, our friends, the planner with really good language skills, it'd be great if you'd be interested in helping with some of that, or we can pay Lee to do a couple hours work on it.
Well, isn't this something, Jim, correct me if I'm wrong, you would know the words that need to be in this, the description. We can't teach people what a TIF is. They have to come to the table knowing what a TIF is. But we can tell them what size properties there are, what amenities are in the neighborhood, that kind of thing. And with the right wording, it becomes a tool.
Jim?
My suggestion would be to tie it to the comprehensive plan and market the whole area that way, with the TIF being a component of it.
So
you've got all kinds of opportunities in terms of land use. You've got the access all spelled out, and now we have the TIF.
This is like holding on to Jell-O.
Well, I'm an expert at holding on to Jell-O. I mean, I did it for my mom all the time, but my hands always got sticky by the end of it. The one thing I think that Jim just said is probably the starting point is, let's draw from the comprehensive plan what we've already said about that area. That area is well known to us, and we've already talked about it in the comprehensive plan. And apropos Ann's comment, it needs to be distilled into this one-page highlight sheet, but we add to the highlight something that wasn't in the comprehensive plan, namely, and we have a TIF.
Yeah.
That's exactly what I'm looking for. So maybe, you know, I think
Jim's got to be your guy.
The most
in terms of putting it together.
expeditious thing to do is what Jenny suggested, and have Lee do it.
I mean, I
find this whole conversation very confusing. And somebody please, you know, set me straight, correct me, discuss this with me. I get this. My impression was that we created a bucket, a vessel for the future when we created this TIF. And one of the issues I had with that was that we knew somewhere along the way that the people on the other side of 53 had expressed an interest it was never followed up, as far as I know, and I could be wrong. But that just didn't get pursued, and I don't understand that, number one, and we don't have to discuss
The
it.
car dealership, are you talking about?
Pardon me?
The car dealership?
No, on the west side of 50.
Oh, yeah, no, Jim's,
No,
Jim, you're having a conversation with those people, aren't you?
I have explained to them that the TIF was going to be put into place. They were there at the meeting when the TIF was actually approved. So.
I thought those were the Menards people.
No, Mr. Tony was there too.
Okay. So that I wasn't aware of.
Yeah.
But we don't have anything concrete with or about that property at this time, right?
Correct.
Okay, so, and that was just like a parenthetical on my part of some of the things that bother me about the TIF. But my understanding was, we're just creating this thing because deadlines are looming. It's a bucket, it's this, it's that. And from this conversation and what I heard this morning, and I did tune in late, it's kind of, it's sort of like we a child who gets a new toy and, you concentrate on that because you're distracted from the tried and the true. And by that, I mean, why are we concentrating on this piece of land when we still could be trying to figure out a way to get to help Harbor Chase get more people so that they can pay the water bills that we had been led to believe that this was going to be kind of an easy peasy revenue for the village when that all went into place. And contiguous to that is the South 15. I don't understand why at this point in time we don't have enough of a vision of what we want in any of those spots to have enough ideas or thoughts on what it is we would really like to have, so that is the goal, to go out and find that kind of development or that kind of ownership, that kind of construction, whatever it takes. And I understand the benefit of being flexible, but I guess it's a horse or the cart kind of question. But I can be flexible, but I kind of know what I don't want personally. With wearing my trustee hat, I have an idea of things that for me would be acceptable, but I don't think we know that as a board, and that bothers me. Somebody tell me I'm crazy. Somebody tell me, that I've added up 1 and 1 and come up with 11.
Well, you're not crazy. We do have a comprehensive plan that has some information on what we'd like to put in some of those spots, right? To Jim's point, even going back to the South 53 Gateway, but all they were asking for was they want to tell people about it. They're talking to Lake County partners, they're making connections, and they wanted, what can we tell people about it? And that's what the ask was at this point. So, and that's all that they're looking for direction. And I think that's fair that we give them something that they can work with,
Do we have any idea what it would cost?
Can we do that regarding the South 15, for example? Which to me, we've had the most activity on that, but nothing has come up that it's what we're looking for. And the question is, as always, is what is it we're looking for? So
if we had the access problem solved there, that would help that one too, right? So.
Well, but even if it was still, even if it ended up being the way it is today, that's not all bad, because there's still a possibility of entering through the Arlington Heights Road entrance and exit that's being used now for those office buildings. There's a possibility that could connect, but and that's a discussion for another day and another time. But I hear what you're saying about that. It's just that land is just so ripe, and an entrance to the village, to me it's a huge opportunity and maybe more easily done at this point in time in our economy than something further south, meaning business is going to pick up as soon as the vaccinations take place, and it takes time to get this stuff started. So now is the time. Does that make sense, or is that just sound
Does anybody have any idea what it would cost for Lee Brown to do what it is that EDC wants?
I was gonna, if I got approval or an okay from the board, I was just gonna reach out and ask. But if there was like a rejection that we wanted to just keep this in-house, then, maybe Jim and Mina and I can sit down and try to hammer out something. And maybe that's just the best course of action at this point.
Well, I disagree with you. I think that the most direct route is to have somebody who works with it every day and knows the property so well, do it. I mean, we're not going to reinvent the wheel on it. We just need some certain words and so forth. And I think you ought to go ahead and do it.
Okay, I'll reach out to him and see how much he would charge. Just because that information will be useful, and then we'll. Okay, so I'm going to move on to the next thing. We are going to. One of the things we talked about the last meeting was collaborating with Stevenson. I think that there was concern by you, Chris, that this was child labor. We've
perceived that it could be perceived that it might be.
Perceived, yes. We talked to Melanie, and she actually did something similar when she was in high school. This is fairly common. We've talked, Anne talked to the teachers at Stevenson. I think as long as we focus on the process and not the end product, and see this as an opportunity for them to learn and us to kind of give them an opportunity to have real life experience, and knowing that we're not looking for a polished product. We may get some great ideas, but it has a lot of potential to be a good thing for both, I think, in my opinion.
Could it be considered community service? Everyone's supposed to volunteer for community service. Would you consider that?
You know, when I talked to Melanie, I asked her specifically if she had done it. She said absolutely, and she said it was wonderful to have on her resume. And most people in her field have done free internships where they're just getting experience that can be put on a resume, and it's a very valuable tool for them.
Well, I couldn't agree with you more. I just was wondering if it would count towards community service. They all have to do.
Oh, I see what you mean.
Yeah. So I'm just twisting it a little bit. They're doing work for the government, and it could be considered community service. And
they're 14 years old.
Yeah, but
they're not college kids.
But everyone has those goals now. That starts really early.
It's like 300. It's 300 club. That's what you're talking about, right?
Yeah.
I'm sorry. What does that mean?
The 300 club is 300 hours of community service by the time you graduate Stevenson.
Yeah, I know, but it's still okay.
Well, and I think of my son was a scout, and some of the things that he had to do to get his badges and stuff like that. So there's things that you would do that, yeah, you didn't get paid for it, but you got a badge, right? So I kind of put this in the same bucket, but I don't know.
Agreed.
So we would like to continue. I think we have a meeting Thursday at noon with the two teachers at Stevenson to discuss further, the next steps in this process. And Anne took some really thorough notes of our conversation. Those are posted, right, Anne, on the board?
Yeah, Denise was kind enough to put them up on somewhere in the shared drive.
So I think that really outlines really beautifully what we're talking about and where we're moving, what we hope to get out of this and what we hope to give the students as an experience. So, and then the last thing is that at the February 7th meeting, whoever's interested, we've postponed the reserve tour for at 9 a.m. after the meeting. I'm sorry, I think is it the 9th?
That's the 9th, yeah. It's
The 9th, sorry, I can't read my writing. And then also Gary Vicari, who emailed all of us, will also be coming to give a short presentation on the longer conversation he had with Bill and Rita last week. So that's end of report, unless anybody has any questions.
Any questions? Otherwise, thank you for the report, Jenny, and great meeting today. We'll move to the building department report. I think Trustee Nora, are you going to lead this one, or?
I can. I'd like you to put up the, the graphs I had created, and probably more importantly, the year-to-date revenues, expenses, and where we are as far as, net income from permits.
Yep, let me grab it really quick. Let's see. See, I can just share my.
I don't know if everyone looked at them. The graphs just do what I've done before, kind of just gives you a breakout of what type of permits are coming into the village. I think COVID actually has helped our permit revenues this year because no one's going anywhere.
It's all sideways.
Move the house, right? So.
Can I rotate this in the, it's online? I guess I
If
have
you
to
can't pull
download
it up, I think I can.
Here, let me do it this way. Let's see if I
got the
can.
base copy of it, so I can.
I think I can rotate it, right? So rotate clockwise. You like it upside down?
Sure. I can read upside down.
All right, is this working?
I don't see anything.
You can't see it?
Nope.
All right, let me try again. Try one more time.
There you go.
Okay, good. All right.
So, we're actually doing pretty good this year. Quite honestly, before COVID, I thought we were going to end up in a net loss situation because, our overhead's fairly considerable month over month. But we've had such an influx of people improving their homes and the permits. We're not doing bad at all. We got a few more months to go in the year.
No, extortion from our residents is a good thing. Yeah.
Well, there's still the
sorry,
very
Chuck.
real,
I'm sorry, Chuck.
That's
I
fine,
apologize.
Chris. There's still the very real desire to review all our permit fees,
and we've been having that conversation for 3 years. So what are we doing to do that?
And it seems like it gets backburnered for various different reasons. Right now, it'd be probably a good idea to wait until we have a permanent village manager.
Want to keep moving us along here?
Bobby,
you're talking.
You're muted, but.
No, I was really glad to see this because it makes more sense than talking about, oh golly, 165,000 doesn't mean anything.
No, it really doesn't. But, it's like I say, December was the first time this year that we actually had a loss. But the other months have been pretty good. So I guess we'll see as we get more people vaccinated and people start maybe spending their money in other ways, what the next few months are going to turn out to be. And this is basically the last 3 months. I was a little bit behind getting this stuff put together. So this was just catching up for the last 3 months where I was behind schedule. Maybe a little hard for you guys to read this, but this is all in the board packets. So if you want to do a deeper dive, you can certainly do so. I was surprised to see that additions were the biggest piece of the pie this past month.
Oh, 39% additions to residents was the biggest line item. Okay.
Well, I mean, if you just look at the pie chart, it makes it pretty evident.
Yep. It's right here. Yeah.
So, Bill, have you made any headway with Mundaline regarding?
In terms of the property maintenance?
Yes.
Yeah, and that's good. That's going to be a factor on this. We're going to figure out, you know, there wasn't a lot of activity that Buffalo Grove provided at the end of their contract. So if we use the same practice, there's not a lot of money to be made in property maintenance. Matter of fact, there's nuisance charges, and we need that adjudication system integrated into that. So I think we want to. It's not necessarily fair to show that as part of this program, because I think, Chuck, you've got a good analysis on where that is coming from. But we didn't have much going on in Buffalo Grove, and our expectation is that we're going to get more aggressive. Now, there will be an agreement coming to the board, I'm hoping by the end of February, and they're already started to launch their activities. That troublesome fence behind that Ullman Nursery property hasn't been addressed by. I thought that was going to be addressed by BG on the way out, but they got, you know, they had a real big transformation of their staffing, so I understand it. But I said, get that on the front burner and let's see what we can do, at least address it. But, you know, now in midwinter, you're not going to be changing out that fence. So the implementation is going to be some, but the costs are going to start to be incurred, and you're not going to get your money back even when you get, you know, assessments, you know, against for the violation. So I think using a subset of this data, I think, is probably the solution for that. But, you know, I have launched that. I've directed them to get started, and then it'll be followed up by an agreement probably at our second meeting in February.
Okay. I actually don't view that activity as a revenue stream, but as a means to get people to get their buildings, you know, up to par. We still have some really dilapidated looking buildings downtown that are taking away from all the great, you know, streetscaping and new roads and everything else we've done. So
what is the
I look at it as two separate.
process?
I'm sorry.
What is the collection process? Say using omens and the fence. What is the process for, I don't want to make money on it, but I don't want to lose money either.
Yeah, well, I mean, the goal of private property maintenance is compliance. You know, they did fool around a little bit with some. They tried to re-nail some old boards up in the late fall, and it was a joke. I mean, they didn't do it properly. So we would send them through an adjudication process. They'd probably be subject to a fine and a court order to clean up their deficiencies. But all that churns out in time, and we'd be working with Mundaline officers. Fortunately, the adjudication court is the same one Mundaline uses. That's in the village hall, so it'll be as efficient as it possibly can be. But it'll be the objective of the property maintenance is clean up the trouble pieces. That's why my mouth was watering. I figured we get that old golf course building down in a couple of weeks. It doesn't cost us anything.
Yeah, you weren't here for all the fun we had on the phone.
Yeah, you know, I understand the complexities of that, so I'm not loving for it. But it was like they're hard to get down, and they're usually just a cash drain because we'll be paying on an hourly basis, and there's a lot more hours to nudge people along to get compliance before you send them in adjudication court. So the end goal is a better dressed community, better, you know, clean up properties, but it's going to be not a huge cash drain because we don't have slums in the town, but it'll be a cash drain every time we get them deployed.
Well, and I don't mind rolling those costs into the year-to-date, you know, chart that Bill just had showed initially.
Yeah.
So we do get a picture of it, but yeah, I don't think that's ever going to be a revenue stream.
Right.
So Chuck, where do you want to go next?
Really where I want to go next is to let this board know that the window to make a determination as to whether or not we ever really want cannabis or cannabis businesses in this town is now. The state's about to release 75 new dispensary licenses, followed by 40 new grow licenses. And this is something that should have been done a while ago. COVID slowed that process down tremendously, as did a few different lawsuits, that people took out against the state because they felt they were being unfairly treated and blah, blah, blah. Your typical thing when it comes to applicants not being selected. But now's the time. We've got another opportunity to take a look at this. You guys, I think, know my opinion, and it really centers around this can be a revenue stream for us. If you want to bring your own personal opinion into the decision, you certainly are welcome to do so. I'm looking at it more from recreational cannabis has become legal in the state. There's a lot of other villages around us who are benefiting fairly significantly from the sales tax revenue. And I think we are doing ourselves a disservice if we don't take a really hard look at that and consider rescinding the ordinance that we passed, I guess about a year ago now. It was before it actually became legal. So over a year ago now. And be more than happy to talk to you guys about it. I don't know if tonight's the time to start reciting things that I read. I get periodicals in my inbox like daily from places like MMJ Daily. It's all medical and recreational marijuana publications. It's a huge business. And if you guys want to get a flavor for how huge that is, I'll be more than happy to start forwarding some of those publications to you. I don't know if it helped you. It's not always about Illinois. It's about what's going on in the marijuana industry, as a whole. Found something very interesting, and this is a Canadian issue, but part of it is because they don't have enough dispensaries. They've got over 1 billion grams of flower available for sale that has yet to be sold.
That's not the flour that you bake with though, right?
No, it's not that.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
It's buds.
Okay.
I apologize. I tend to use industry language. It's buds, that people typically, break down and consume through smoking it, I believe. But the industry calls it flour. So I apologize. But, there's the demand. The Canadians haven't figured out how to get it to market yet, which I find rather interesting. But of course, they decided that the prime distributor in Canada is going to be the Canadian government. So maybe there's a correlation as to why they haven't been able to get it to market.
All right. So probably not tonight to finish the conversation. Does anyone want to see it on as an agenda item to have a discussion on it?
I do.
Okay.
I'd be in favor of that discussion, yeah.
Okay.
And also the discussion of if we want to use survey tool and it's not a democracy, but it's an information. I think our decisions get better if we have more input and more information.
Mm-hmm.
Whether or not, if 80% of the people say yes and we still say no, then we know that and we know how to communicate better.
Right.
Or if 20% say yes and we say, or 20% say no and we say yes, it's the same thing. I think it helps us inform that.
What I'd like to also know, if Bill Balling can help us out here, is get an idea from Mundelein what their tax revenue was for 2020. For, you know, they got one dispensary. And interestingly, every time I've gone by there, I do business with the grower. So, you know, I've got an interest to see how well they're doing. Most of the cars in that parking lot are from Wisconsin.
As I said, I'd be interested in the traffic.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, we'll see what we can get from them, what they want.
Yeah, I
I
don't
mean, it's
know.
public information. I mean, the revenue is going to be public information, so.
But you know, that there's lines that are up to 2 hours long just to pick up product that has been pre-ordered online. So don't kid yourself about whether there's any demand there or not. It's ridiculously large demand.
Chuck, I didn't know where the Mundelein dispensary was, and recently went by, and it was a nice, presentable building. It was well cared for. It was in the right neighborhood.
Yeah.
And that, you know, it's kind of key to where, in my mind.
I agree. I mean, I'm not a proponent of putting it right in downtown Long Grove, but we've got some outskirts that may make sense to put it in. I don't know how close we want to go to Mundelein, but we've got this new TIF that who knows? Well, it'd be interesting if Menards would agree to it. I don't think the ownership of Menards would necessarily go in that direction. And then I was actually thinking for a while, CF Industries possibly being turned into a growing condominium. The new owners are going in a completely different direction, which is great. I'm glad there's someone doing something at the building. But it can't really coexist with other types of businesses in that, you know, same facility.
All right, we're going to get this. I know, Chris, you nodded. I didn't hear from Jenny or Rita. I don't know if that's a yes or no.
I'm fine. I think that's a good idea to bring it up.
All right. Rita, are you okay? Rita?
Yeah, I'm here. Yeah, we can talk about it.
Okay. All
So
right.
is anyone interested in me forwarding any, MMJ daily publications on? I don't want to send it to you if you're not interested.
No, send it to me. Whatever that stands for, I'd be interested to see what it is.
Okay. I'll certainly do so. And then Bill, you can use your discretion if you want to pass it on to anybody else. So
pass it on to the board.
Yeah. I think you'll find it interesting reading.
And if the feds take any action to legalize it, I think that opens up a whole new market for people who actually work for companies that still drug test, right?
Yeah. Well, personally, I hope the feds don't legalize it all in one fall swoop. We don't have the manufacturing capacity to keep up with the demand. That's a personal business, that's my side of the actual how we make a living business. So,
yeah, I'll have to start home growing, right? Let everyone grow it at home. It'll be quickly. We'll have no problem.
Illinois says you can grow, if you've got a medical license, you could grow up to 5 plants, I think. I don't know of anyone who's doing that, but I'm not running around asking people either. So.
All right, now we'll have a serious discussion on it.
I don't know if we want to spend too much more time talking about marijuana. So, end of report.
Thanks, Chuck. Chris, sheriff's contract renewal discussion.
Chris doesn't have a lot to really report. There's a meeting coming up with the sheriff's department. Bill Balling, Bill Jacobs, and myself had a discussion. Brought up several of the issues, concerns that we have that include a lot of the input that all the trustees have been very kind to provide. So preliminary meeting coming up, I think, next week or 10 days or 2 weeks?
Yeah, actually, Chris, we had a request an alternate date. We're trying to get the week of February 5th, but it looks like February 4th might be our target Thursday. And Jim McKinney is the fellow going to work with. His predecessor retired. So Jim McKinney, and he'll bring a couple of people with him that are very familiar with our contract. So it should be a good, healthy discussion.
Yeah, I agree. So if there, you could read this sheet with all the discussion topics that was in the report.
And speaking of sheriffs and that app, I downloaded it. Go into settings. You can select what village you want news from.
Yeah, Denise also sent me an email during this meeting on that, so I'm just going to go in and do that. Thank you.
Yeah.
I didn't see it on the initial setup, so user error perhaps.
It's hidden in settings, but it's there.
Thanks.
All right, Chris, anything else?
No, not particularly. Thank you.
All right, thanks for the update.
Yeah, there is one more comment in your email. The sheriff's contract specifically precludes them responding to lost pets, by the way. That's it. Thanks, Bill.
Not advocating for it, more advocating for clarifying. Thank you.
I love it. Love it. That's what next door is for. That's what we learned.
Exactly.
Oh, I had a question. Do we have the textile donation thing up, or does that have an ETA?
Great question. Actually, all they're waiting for is for us to give them the spot, and I think that sort of fell through a crack. I think Swalco was just waiting for us to show them the spot. I did some recon in the parking lot and at Archer, and I guess the real question is, do we put it all the way back towards the fire department? I mean, that second stall over right next to that handicap spot is a great spot for it, right next to the fire department, or do we bring it up closer and get some more visibility? But basically they're waiting for us just to pick the spot. I had no objections to putting it right next to the fire department, and the spots that are like parallel to the wall of the fire department right there.
Go for it.
Go for it. Okay. Yep. That's all they're waiting for us for, and if we confirm that, then they'll schedule it.
You decide. You decide, Chris.
Oh, okay, I'll do it.
Just get it done, because I think the thing's mobile, right? So you can always move it. So.
Yeah, sure. No, actually, they need to bring a different truck to move it. So, but yeah, they could always move it. Sure.
They could always move it. So just pick a spot, what you think is best. Be done with it.
I think Denise wanted to say something.
Oh, Denise?
Yeah. Let you know that I have been talking with, her name is Merlan Brandtail.
Yeah, Merlan.
Yeah, and Jim had showed me the spot that you were kind of looking at, and she actually went over and took a look at it, and I took some pictures, and she said the spot looks great. I went over at night too, just to make sure that the lighting was okay. It's right behind the fire department, and the fire department has said that they would actually go and check it, make sure that it didn't overfill, and they would call and let people know if that is happening. So they've actually okayed the spot, and they said they will deliver by the end of the month.
There you go.
Great.
Oh, bless you. That's great.
All right. It's done. Thank you.
So we'll need a big pitch in the bridge and the email blast and an explanation.
We're just waiting for the time that it's there.
Okay.
End of report?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you. All right, moving right along. The next, does any of the other trustees have anything tonight that they want to talk about? It's not on the agenda. Okay, going once, going twice. Approval of the minutes from the Tuesday, December 8th board meeting. Does anyone want to make a motion, or are there any?
So move.
Okay.
Second.
Moved by Trustee O'Reilly, seconded by Trustee Nora. Roll call. Amy, you still there?
Sorry, yeah, I lost my pen, so give me that again. Trustee O'Reilly made the motion.
Yeah, and then seconded by Trustee Nora.
Okay, excellent. All right, Trustee Borowski,
Yes.
Trustee Gritzmeyer.
Abstain. I wasn't there.
Okay. Trustee O'Reilly,
Aye.
Trustee Nora,
Yes.
Trustee O'Connor?
I didn't hear the motion.
Approve
The
the
minutes
minutes.
Approve the minutes from the December 8th
8th.
meeting.
Oh. Aye, I did read them. Yeah, aye. Thanks, sorry.
Okay, and Trustee Micho?
Yes.
All right, motion
Okay.
carried. I would be looking for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Oh, that was in unison. All right, so moved by Trustee Kritzmeyer, seconded by Trustee O'Connor, right?
Bill, did you
No.
call for public comment?
I
Oh, I'm
think-
sorry. Let me do that really quick. Yep, thank you. Let me make sure there's no public comment. Thanks for catching it. Any public comment tonight?
Lori's got her hand up.
Lori, please. Yep, go ahead, Lori.
Hi, everyone.
Hi, Lori.
Well, again, just want to let you know, I'm running for Ela Township trustee, and how that affects Long Grove is how they change the highway department. So I'll keep you abreast on that. And riding Cuba Road is a pleasure, so thanks for recovering the road. So that's it.
Thanks, Lori.
Thanks,
So
Lori.
nice
Thanks,
to
Lori.
see
Nice
you.
to see you.
Lori, good night.
All right. Now, any other public comment? Helen, do you want to say hi?
I'll say hello. Thank you. Just here tonight as Planning Commission representative.
Well, thanks for sitting through the meeting tonight. We appreciate it.
Thanks,
Hope you're
Helen.
doing well.
Helen.
All right. So it was moved by Trustee Kritzmeyer, seconded by Trustee O'Reilly. Roll call, please.
Or Trustee O'Connor, I believe. That's what I
Oh,
had
Trustee
written down.
O'Connor. I'm sorry. Yeah, O'Connor. Yep.
I don't think I was in that. I think it was the O's.
It was not me.
It was me.
It was
Ah.
Jenny. Yeah,
It was Jenny and me.
All right. So who moved it then?
Jenny.
It was moved
We
by
did it
Trustee
together.
Micho, seconded by Trustee O'Reilly.
Okay, got that. Let me scratch out the other one. Okay, Trustee Micho.
Yes.
Trustee O'Connor?
Yes.
Trustee Nora?
Yes.
Trustee O'Reilly?
Yes.
Trustee Kritzmeyer?
Hi.
And Trustee Borowski.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
All right, motion
Good night,
carried.
everyone.
Good night, everyone.
All right. Thank
Good
you.
night, good night, good night,
Good.
good night.
Ah, Vic.